All right, guys, this is day 34. Day 34, and we're going to do Numbers chapter 11. We're just going to keep going. Today is going to be a special day. We're going to do like 11, 12 hours, however long until this cuts off, dedicating to the Lord, our God. And so, yeah, stay tuned. We'll see how long this recording lets me go, how long until my iPhone storage runs out. So, and without further ado, we're going to do a prayer in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Please pray for us, Saint Joseph, Universal Father, for the families and the church, and patron saint of families and prayer and the Universal Church, God, and have Saint Joseph, like he was the protector of the family of the baby Jesus with the Virgin Mary. Please have him to intercede into our lives and help us to heal and perform miracles and do the grace of God above all things. In your name we pray, amen. In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Okay. With that, we'll begin. Chapter 11 of Numbers. Discontent of the people. Now the people complained in the hearing of the Lord. And when he heard it, his wrath flared up. And so his wrath flared up so that the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed the outskirts of the camp. But when the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died out. Hence that the place was called Taberah, because there the fire of the Lord burned among them. The foreign elements among them were so greedy for meat that even the Israelites lamented again. Would that we had meat for food. We remember the fish we used to eat without cost in Egypt, and the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now we are famished. We see nothing before us but this manna. Manna was like coriander seed and had the appearance of bdellium. When they had gone out and gathered it up, the people would grind it between the millstones or pound it in a mortar, then cook it in a pot and make it into loaves, which tasted like cakes made with oil. At night, when the dew fell upon the camp, the manna also fell. When Moses heard the people, family after family, crying at the entrance of their tents, so that the Lord became very angry. He was grieved. Why do you treat your servant so badly? Moses asked the Lord. Why are you so displeased with me that you burden me with all this people? Was it I who conceived this people? Or was it I who gave them birth? That you may tell me to carry them at my bosom, like a foster father carrying an infant, to the land you have promised under oath to their fathers. Where can I get meat to give all this people? For they are crying to me, give us meat for our food. I cannot carry all this people by myself, for they are too heavy for me. If this is the way you will deal with me, then please do me the favor of killing me at once, that I need no longer face this distress. The 70 elders. Then the Lord said to Moses, assemble for me 70 of the elders of Israel. Men you know for true elders and authorities among the people, and bring them to the meeting tent. When they are in place beside you, I will come down and speak with you there. I will also take some of the Spirit that is on you and will bestow it on them, that they may share the burden of the people with you. You will then not have to bear it by yourself. To the people, however, you shall say, sanctify yourselves for tomorrow, when you shall have meat to eat. For in the hearing of the Lord you have cried, would that we had meat for food. Oh, how well off we were in Egypt. Therefore the Lord will give you meat for food, and you will eat it, not for 1 day, or 2 days, or 5, or 10, or 20 days, but for the whole month, until it comes out of your very nostrils and becomes loathsome to you. For you have spurned the Lord who is in your midst, and in his presence you have wailed, why did we ever leave Egypt? But Moses said, the people around me include 600,000 soldiers. Yet you say, I will give them meat to eat for a whole month. Can enough sheep and cattle be slaughtered for them? If all the fish of the sea were caught for them, would they have enough? The Lord answered Moses, is this beyond the Lord's reach? You shall see now whether or not what I have promised you takes place. The spirit of the elders. So Moses went out and told the people that the Lord. So Moses went out and told the people what the Lord had said. Gathering 70 elders of the people, he had them stand around the tent. The Lord then came down in a cloud and spoke to him, taking some of the spirit that was on Moses. He bestowed it on the 70 elders, and as the spirit came to rest on them, they prophesied. Now 2 men, one named Eldad and the other Medad, were not in the gathering, but had been left in the camp. They too had been on the list, but had not gone out to the tent. Yet the Spirit came to rest on them also, and they prophesied in the camp. So when a young man quickly told Moses, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp, Joshua son of Nun, who from his youth had been Moses' aide, said, Moses, my Lord, stop them. But Moses answered him, are you jealous for my sake? Would that all the people of the Lord were prophets? Would that the Lord might bestow his spirit on them all. Then Moses retired to the camp along with the elders of Israel. The quail. There arose a wind of the Lord that drove in quail from the sea and brought them down over the campsite. At the height of 2 cubits from the ground, for the distance of a day's journey all around the camp, all that day, all night, and all the next day, the people gathered in the quail. Even the one who got the least gathered 10 homers of them. They spread them out all around the camp, but while the meat was still between their teeth before it could be consumed, the Lord's wrath flared up against the people, and he struck them with a very great plague, so that place was named Kibroth Hattaavah, because it was there that the greedy people were buried. From Kibroth Hattaavah, the people set out for Hazeroth. Chapter 12 of Numbers, jealousy of Aaron and Miriam. While they were in the Hazeroth, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses on the pretext of the marriage he had contracted with a Cushite woman. They complained, is it through Moses alone that the Lord speaks? Does he not speak through us also? And the Lord heard this. Now Moses himself was by far the meekest man on the face of the earth. So at once the Lord said to Moses and Aaron and Miriam, come out, you 3, to the meeting tent. And the 3 of them went. Then the Lord came down in the column of cloud, and standing at the entrance of the tent, called Aaron and Miriam. When both come forward, he said, now listen to the words of the Lord. Should there be a prophet among you? In visions will I reveal myself to him. In dreams will I speak to him. Not so with my servant Moses. Throughout my house he bears my trust. Face to face I speak to him. Plainly and not in riddles. The presence of the Lord he beholds. Why then did you not fear to speak against my servant Moses? Why then did you not fear to speak against my servant Moses? Miriam's leprosy. So angry was the Lord against them that when he departed and the cloud withdrew from the tent, there was Miriam, a snow-white leper. When Aaron turned and saw her a leper, ah, my Lord, he said to Moses, please do not charge us with the sin that we have. Foolishly committed. Let us not thus be like the stillborn babe that comes forth from its mother's womb, with its flesh half consumed. Then Moses cried to the Lord, "Please, not this. Pray, heal her." But the Lord answered Moses, "Suppose her father spit in her face. Would she not hide it in shame for 7 days? Let her be confined outside the camp for 7 days. Only then may she be brought back." So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not start out again until she was brought back. After the people set out from Hazeroth and decamped in the desert of Paran. Chapter 13, the 12 scouts. The Lord said to Moses, the Lord said to Moses, "Send men to reconnoiter the land of Canaan, which I am giving the Israelites. You shall send one man from each ancestral tribe, all of them princes." So Moses dispatched from the desert of Paran, as the Lord had ordered. All of them were leaders among the Israelites. By name they were Shammua son of Zuccur, of tribe of Reuben; Shaphat son of Hori, of the tribe of Simeon; Caleb son of Jephunneh, of the tribe of Judah; Igal son of Joseph, of the tribe of Issachar; Gediel son of Zodi, of the tribe of Zebulun; Gadiel son of Zodi, of the tribe of Zebulun; Gadi son of Suzi, of the tribe of Manasseh; for the Josephites, with Hoshea son of Nun, of the tribe of Ephraim; Plati son of Raphu, of the tribe of Benjamin; Amiel son of Gemali, of the tribe of Dan; Sether son of Michael, of the tribe of Asher; Nahbi son of Vophsi, of the tribe of Naphtali; Geuliel son of Maki, of the tribe of Gad. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent out to reconnoiter the land. But Hoshea son of Nun Moses called Joshua. In sending them to reconnoiter the land of Canaan, Moses said to them, "Go up here in Negeb, up into the highlands, and see what kind of land it is. Are the people living there strong or weak, few or many? Is the land in which they live good or bad? Are the towns in which they dwell open or fortified? Is the soil fertile or barren, wooded or clear? And do your best to get some of the fruit of the land." It was then the season for early grapes. So they went up to reconnoiter the land from the desert of Zin, as far as where Rahab adjoins Labo and Hamath. Going by way of the Negeb, they reached Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, descendants of Anakim, were living. Hebron had built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. They also reached the Wadi Eshkol, where they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes on it, which 2 of them carried on a pole, as well as some pomegranates and figs. It was because of the cluster the Israelites cut there that they call the place Wadi Eshkol. Their return. After reconnoitering the land for 40 days, they returned, met Moses and Aaron and the whole community of the Israelites in the desert of Paran. Kadesh made a report to them all and showed them the fruit of the country. They told Moses, "We went into the land to which you sent us. It does indeed flow with milk and honey, and here is its fruit. However, the people who are living in the land are fierce, and the towns are fortified and very strong. Besides, we saw descendants of the Anakim there, Amalekites, live in the region of Negeb. Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites dwell in the highlands of the Canaanites among the seacoast and the banks of the Jordan." Caleb, however, to quiet the people toward Moses, said, "We ought to go up and seize the land, for we can certainly do so." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We cannot attack these people. They are too strong for us. So they spread discouraging reports among the Israelites about the land they had scouted, saying, "The land that we explored is a country that consumes its inhabitants. And all the people we saw there are huge men, variable giants. The Anakim were a race of giants. We felt like mere grasshoppers, and so we must have seemed to them." Chapter 14 of Numbers. Threats of revolt. At this, the whole community broke out with loud cries, and even in the night, the people wailed. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron and the whole community, saying to them, Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or that here in the desert we were dead. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land only to have us fall by the sword? Our wives, the little ones, will be taken as booty. Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt? So they said to one another, Let us appoint a leader and go back to Egypt. But Moses and Aaron fell prostrate before the whole assembled community of the Israelites, while Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, who had been in the party that scattered the land, tore their garments and said to the whole community of the Israelites, "The country which we went through and explored is a fine, rich land. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us in and give us that land, a land flowing with milk and honey. But do not rebel against the Lord. You needn't be afraid of the people of that land. They are but food for us. Their defense has left them, but the Lord is with us. Therefore, do not be afraid of them." In answer, the whole community threatened to stone them. The Lord's sentence. But then the glory of the Lord appeared at the meeting tent to the Israelites. And the Lord said to Moses, "How long will this people spurn me? How long will they refuse to believe in me, despite all the signs I have performed among them? I will strike them with pestilence and wipe them out. Then I will make of you a nation greater and mightier than they." Moses said to the Lord, "Are the Egyptians to hear of this? For by your power you brought out this people from among them, and are they to tell of it to the inhabitants of this land? It has been heard that you, O Lord, are in the midst of this people. You, Lord, who plainly reveal yourself, your clouds stand over them, and you go before them by day in a column of cloud, and by night in a column of fire. If now you slay this whole people, the nations who have heard such reports of you will say, 'The Lord was not able to bring this people into the land he swore to give them. That is why he slaughtered them in the desert. Now then, let the people of my Lord be displayed in its greatness. Even as you have said, the Lord is slow to anger and rich in kindness, forgiving wickedness and crime, yet not declaring the guiltless guilty, but punishing children to the third and fourth generation for their father's wickedness. Pardon then the wickedness of this people in keeping with your great kindness, even as you have forgiven them from Egypt until now." The Lord answered, "I pardon them as you have asked, yet by my life and the Lord's glory that fills the whole earth, of all the men who have seen my glory and signs I worked in Egypt and in the desert, and who nevertheless have put me to the test 10 times already and have failed to heed my voice, not one shall see the land which I promised and on oath to their fathers. None of these who have spurned me shall see it. But because my servant Caleb has a different spirit that follows me unreservedly, I will bring him into the land where he has just been, and his descendants shall possess it. But now, since the Amalekites and Canaanites are living in the valleys, turn away tomorrow and set out in the desert on the Red Sea road." The Lord also said to Moses and Aaron, "How long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the grumblings of the Israelites against me. Tell them, by my life, says the Lord, I will do to you just what I have heard you say. Here in the desert shall your dead bodies fall. Of all your men of 20 years or more registered in the census who grumbled against me, not one shall enter the land where I solemnly swore to settle you, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. Your little ones, however, who you said would be taken as booty, I will bring in, and they shall appreciate the land you spurned. But as for you, your bodies shall fall here in the desert, here where your children must wander for 40 years, suffering for your faithfulness, till the last of you lies dead in the desert. 40 days you spent in scouting the land, 40 days you spent scouting the land. 40 years shall you suffer for your crimes, 1 year for each day. Thus you will realize what it means to oppose me. I, the Lord, have sworn to do this to all this wicked community that conspired against me here in the desert. They shall die to the last man. And so it happened to the men whom Moses had sent to reconnoiter the land, and who, on returning, had set the whole community grumbling against him by spreading discouraging reports about the land. These men who had given out the bad report about the land were struck down by the Lord and died. Of all the men who had gone to reconnoiter the land, only Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh survived. Unsuccessful invasion. When Moses repeated these words to all the Israelites, the people felt great remorse. Early the next morning, they started up into the foothills, saying, "Here we are, ready to go up to the place that the Lord spoke of, for we were indeed doing wrong." But Moses said, "Why are you again disobeying the Lord's orders? This cannot succeed. Do not go up, because the Lord is not in your midst. If you go, you will be beaten down before your enemies, for there the Amalekites and Canaanites face you, and you will fall by the sword. You have turned back from following the Lord, therefore the Lord will not be with you." Yet they dared to go up into the foothills, even though neither the ark of the covenant of the Lord nor Moses left the camp. And the Amalekites and the Canaanites who dwelt in that country came down and defeated them, beating them back as far as Homorah. Chapter 15, Secondary Offerings. Okay, secondary offerings. The Lord said to Moses, "Give the Israelites these instructions when you have entered the land that I will give you for your homesteads. If you make to the Lord a sweet-smelling oblation from the herd or from the flock, in holocaust and fulfillment of a vow, or as a free will offering for one of your festivals, whoever does so shall also present to the Lord a cereal offering consisting of 1/10 of ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/4 of hin of oil as wine with each lamb sacrificed in the holocaust offering. In the holocaust or otherwise, with each sacrifice of a ram, you shall present a cereal offering of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour and mixed with 1/3 of a hin oil, and a libation of 1/3 of a hin of wine, thus making a sweet-smelling offering to the Lord. When you sacrifice an ox as a holocaust or in fulfillment of a vow or as a peace offering to the Lord, with it you shall present a cereal offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/2 a hin of oil, and a libation of 1/2 a hin of wine as a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. The name is to be done for each ox, ram, lamb, or goat. Whatever the number you offer, do the same for each of them. All the native-born shall make these offerings in the same way. Whenever they present a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord, likewise in any future generation, any alien residing with you permanently for a time who presents a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord shall do as you do. There is but one rule for you, for all your descendants before the Lord, you and the alien are alike, with the same law and the same application for it, application of it for the alien residing among you as your slaves. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when you enter the land into which I will bring you, and begin to eat of the food of that land, you shall offer the Lord a contribution consisting of a cake of your first batch of dough. You shall offer it just as you offer a contribution from the threshold floor. Throughout your generations, you shall give a contribution to the Lord from your first batch of dough. Sin offerings, when through inheritance you fail to carry out any of these commandments which the Lord gives to Moses and through Moses to you, from the time the Lord first issues the commandment down through the generations, if the community itself unwittingly becomes guilty of the fault of inadvertence, the whole community shall offer the holocaust of one young bull as a sweet-smelling oblation, pleasing to the Lord, along with the prescribed cereal offering and libation, as well as with one he-goat as a sin offering. When the priest shall make atonement for the whole Israelite community, thus they will be forgiven, and inadvertence for which they have brought their holocaust as an oblation to the Lord, not only the whole Israelite community, but also the aliens residing among you, shall be forgiven, since the fault of the inadvertence affects all the people. However, if it is an individual who sins inadvertently, he shall bring a yearling she-goat as a sin offering, and the priest shall make atonement before the Lord for him who sinned inadvertently. When the atonement has been made for him, he will be forgiven. You shall have but one law for him who sins inadvertently. One law for him who sins inadvertently, whether he be a native Israelite or an alien residing with you. Anyone who sins defiantly, whether he be a native or an alien, insults the Lord, and shall be cut off from among his people, since he has despised the word of the Lord and has broken his commandment. He must be cut off. He has only himself to blame. The Sabbath breaker. While the Israelites were in the desert, a man was discovered gathering wood on the Sabbath day. Those who caught him at it brought him to Moses and Aaron and the whole assembly, but they kept him in custody, for there was no clear decision as to what should be done with him. Then the Lord said to Moses, "This man shall be put to death. Let the whole community stone him outside the camp." So the whole community led him outside the camp and stoned him to death, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Tassels on the cloak. Okay. Tassels on the cloak. Tassels on the cloak. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them that they and their descendants must put tassels on the whole corners of their garments, fastening each corner tassel with a violet cord. When you see these tassels, let the sight of them remind you to keep all the commandments of the Lord without going wantonly astray after the desires of your hearts and eyes. Thus you will remember to keep all my commandments and be holy to your God. I, the Lord, am your God, who as God brought you out of Egypt, I, the Lord, may be your God." Chapter 16 of Numbers. Rebellion of Korah. Korah, son of Izhar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, and Dathan, and Abiram, sons of Eliab, son of Palu, son of Reuben, took 250 Israelites who were leaders in the community, members of the council, and men of note. They stood before Moses and held an assembly against Moses and Aaron, to whom they said, "Enough from you, the Lord, the whole community, all of them are holy. The Lord is in their midst. Why then you set yourselves over the Lord's congregation?" When Moses heard this, he fell prostrate. Then he said to Korah and all his band, "May the Lord make known tomorrow morning who belongs to him and who is the Holy One, and whom he will have draw near to him. Whom he chooses he will have draw near him. Do this, take your censers, Korah and all his band, and put fire in them, and place incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. He whom the Lord then chooses is the Holy One. Enough from you Levites. Moses also said to Korah, listen to me, you Levites. Moses also said to Korah, listen to me, you Levites. Is it too little for you that the God of Israel has singled you out from the community of Israel to have you draw near him for the service of the Lord's dwelling, and to stand before the communities to minister for them? He has allowed you and your kinsmen and descendants of Levi to approach him, and yet you now seek, and yet you now seek the priesthood too. It is therefore against the Lord that you and all your band are conspiring. For what has Aaron done that you should grumble against him? Rebellion of Dathan and Abiram. Moses summoned Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab. But they answered, we will not go. Are you not satisfied with having led us here away from the land flowing with milk and honey to make us perish in the desert, that you must now lord it over us? Far from bringing us to land flowing with milk and honey, or giving us fields and vineyards for our inheritance, will you also gouge out our eyes? No, we will not go. Then Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, pay no heed to their offering. I have never taken a single ass from them, nor have I wronged any one of them. Moses said to Korah, you and all your band shall appear before the Lord tomorrow, you and they and Aaron too. Then each of your 150 followers shall take his own censer, put incense in it, and offer it to the Lord. And you and Aaron, each with its own censer, shall do the same. So they all took their censers, and laying incense on the fire, they had put in them, they took their stand by the entrance of the meeting tent along with Moses and Aaron. Then when Korah had assembled all his band against them at the entrance of the meeting tent, the glory of the Lord appeared to the entire community. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, stand apart from this band, that I may consume them at once. But they fell prostrate and cried out, O God, God of the spirits of all mankind, will one man's sin make you angry with the whole community? The Lord answered Moses, speak to the community and tell them, withdraw from the space around the dwelling of Korah and Dathan and Abiram, punishment of Dathan and Abiram. Moses, followed by the elders of Israel, arose and went to Dathan and Abiram. Then he warned the community, keep away from the tents of these wicked men, and do not touch anything that is theirs, Otherwise you too will be swept away by cause of all their sins. When Dathan and Abiram had come out and were standing at the entrance of their tents, and their wives and sons and little ones, Moses said, this is how you shall know that it was the Lord who sent me to do all I have done, and that it was not I who planned it. If these men die an ordinary death, merely suffering the fate common to all mankind, then it was not the Lord who sent me. But if the Lord does something entirely new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them alive down into the netherworld with all belonging to them, then you will know that these men have defied the Lord. No sooner had he finished saying all this than the ground beneath them split open, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them, and their families, and all of Korah's men, and all their possessions. They went down alive to the netherworld, and with all belonging to them. The earth closed over them, and they perished, and their community, but also the Israelites. community, and they perished the community, but all the Israelites near them fled at their shrieks, saying, "The earth might swallow us too." Punishment of Korah. So they withdrew from the space around the dwelling of Korah and Dathan and Abiram. And fire from the Lord came forth, which consumed the 250 men who were offering the incense. Chapter 17 of Numbers. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, to remove the censers from the embers and scatter the fire some distance away. For these sinners have consecrated the censers at the cost of their lives. Have them hammered into plates to cover the altar. Because in being presented before the Lord, they have become sacred. In this way, they shall serve as a sign to the Israelites." So, Eleazar, the priest, had the bronze censers of those burned during the offering hammered into a covering for the altar in keeping with the orders which the Lord had given him through Moses. This cover was to be a reminder to the Israelites that no layman, no one who was not a descendant of Aaron, should approach the altar to offer incense before the Lord, lest he meet the fate of Korah and his band. The next day, the whole Israelite community grumbled against Moses and Aaron, saying, "It is you who have slain the Lord's people." But while the community was deliberating against them, Moses and Aaron turned toward the meeting tent, and the cloud now covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. Then Moses and Aaron came to the front of the meeting tent, and the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Depart from this community, that I may consume them at once." But they fell prostrate. Then Moses said to Aaron, "Take your censer, put fire from the altar in it, lay incense on it, and bring it quickly to the community to make atonement for them. For the wrath has come forth from the Lord, and the blow is falling." Obeying the orders of Moses, Aaron took his censer and ran in among the community, where the blows were already falling on the people. Then, as he offered the incense and made atonement for the people, standing there between the living and the dead, the scourge was checked, yet 14,700 died from the scourge. In addition to those who died because of Korah, when the scourge had been checked, Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the meeting tent. Aaron's staff. The Lord now said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and get one staff. From them, for each ancestral house, 12 staffs in all, and from each of their tribal princes. Mark each man's name on his staff, and mark Aaron's name on Levi's staff, for the head of Levi's ancestral house shall also have a staff. Then lay them down in the meeting tent in front of the commandments where I meet you. There the staff of the man of my choice shall sprout. Thus will I suppress from my presence the Israelites grumbling against you." So Moses spoke to the Israelites, and their princes gave him staffs, 12 in all, one from each tribal prince, and Aaron's staff was with them. Then Moses laid the staffs down before the Lord in the tent of the commandments. The next day, when Moses entered the tent, Aaron's staff, representing the house of Levi, had sprouted and put forth not only shoots, but blossoms as well, and even bore ripe almonds. Moses therefore brought out all the staffs from the Lord's presence to the Israelites, after each prince identified his own staff, and took it. The Lord said to Moses, "Put back Aaron's staff in front of the commandments to be kept there as a warning to the rebellious, so that the grumbling may cease before me. If it does not, they will die." And Moses did as the Lord had commanded him. Charge of the sacred things. Then the Israelites cried out to Moses, "We are perishing. We are lost. We are lost. We are lost. We are all lost. Every time anyone approaches the dwelling of the Lord, he dies. Are we to perish to the last man?" Chapter 18 of Numbers. The Lord said to Aaron, "You and your sons, as well as the other members of your ancestral house, shall be responsible for the sanctuary, because the responsibility of the priesthood shall rest on you and your sons alone. Bring with you also your other kinsmen of the tribe of Levi, your ancestral tribe as your associates and assistants, while you and your sons are in front of the tent of the commandments. They shall look after your persons and the whole tent. However, they shall not come near the sacred vessels or the altar, lest both they and you die. As your associates, they shall have charge of all the work connected with the meeting tent. But no layman shall come near you. He shall have charge of the sanctuary and of the altar, that wrath may not fall among the Israelites. That the wrath may not fall again upon the Israelites. Remember, it is I who have taken your kinsmen, the Levites, from the body of the Israelites. They are a gift to you, dedicated to the Lord for the service of the meeting tent. But only you and your sons are to have charge of performing the priestly functions and whatever concerns the altar and the room within the veil. I give you the priesthood as a gift. Any layman who draws near shall be put to death. The priest share of the sacrifices. The Lord said to Aaron, I myself have given you charge of the contributions made to me in the various sacred offerings of the Israelites. By perpetual ordinance, I have assigned them to you and to your sons as your priestly share. You shall have the right to share in the oblations that are most sacred, in whatever they offer me as cereal offerings or as sin offerings or guilt offerings. These shares shall accrue to you and to your sons. In eating them, you shall treat them as most sacred. Every male among you may partake of them. As sacred, they belong to you. You shall also have what is removed from the gift in every wave offering of the Israelites. By perpetual ordinance, I have assigned it to you and to your sons and daughters. All in your family who are clean may partake of it. I have also assigned to you all the best of the new oil and of the new wine and grain that they give to the Lord as their first fruits, and likewise of whatever grows on their land and the first products that they bring it in to the Lord shall be yours. All of your family who are clean may partake of them. Whatever is doomed in Israel shall be yours. Every living thing that opens the womb, whether of man or of beast, such as are to be offered to the Lord, shall be yours. But you must let the firstborn of man, as well as of clean animals, be redeemed. The ransom for a boy is to be paid when he is a month old. It is fixed at 5 silver shekels according to the sanctuary standards, 20 gerahs to the shekel. But the firstborn of cattle, sheep, or goats shall not be redeemed. They are sacred. Their blood you must splash on the altar, and their fat you must burn as a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. Their meat, however, shall be yours, just as the breast and the right leg of the wave offering belong to you. By perpetual ordinance, I have assigned to you and to your sons and daughters all the contributions from the sacred gifts which the Israelites make to the Lord. This is an inviolable covenant to last forever before the Lord, for you and your descendants. Then the Lord said to Aaron, you shall not have any inheritance in the land of the Israelites, nor hold any portion among them. I will be your portion and your heritage among them. Tithes due the Levites. To the Levites, however, I hereby assign all tithes in Israel as their heritage. In recompense for the service they perform in the meeting tent, the Israelites may no longer approach the meeting tent, else they will incur guilt deserving death. Okay, guilt deserving death. Guilt deserving death. Only the Levites are to perform the service of the meeting tent, and they alone shall be held responsible. This is a perpetual ordinance for all your generations. Come on. Okay. This is a perpetual ordinance for all your generations. The Levites therefore shall not have any heritage among the Israelites, for I have assigned to them their heritage. The tithes which the Israelites give as contribution to the Lord, that is why I have ordered that tithes which the Israelites give as contribution to the Lord. That is why I have ordered that they are not to have any heritage among the Israelites. Tithes paid by the Levites. Tithes paid by the Levites. The Lord said to Moses, give the Levites these instructions. When you receive from the Israelites the tithes I have assigned you from them as your heritage, you are to make a contribution from them to the Lord. A tithe of the tithes, and your contribution will be credited to you as if it were grain from the threshing floor, or new wine from the press. Thus you shall make a contribution from all the tithes you receive from the Israelites, handing over to Aaron. To Aaron, the priest, as part to be the contribution, as part to be contributed to the Lord. From all the gifts that you receive, and from the best parts, you are to consecrate to the Lord your own full contribution. Tell them also, once you have made your contribution from the best part, the rest of the tithes will be credited to you, Levites, as if you were produce of the threshing floor or of the wine press. Your families as well as you may eat them anywhere, since they are your recompense for service at the meeting tent. You will incur no guilt so long as you make a contribution of the best part. Do not profane the sacred gifts of the Israelites, and so bring death on yourselves. Chapter 19. Ashes of the red heifer. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, this is the regulation which the law of the Lord prescribes. Tell the Israelites to procure for you a red heifer that is free from every blemish and defect, and on which no yoke has ever been laid. This is to be given to Eleazar, the priest, to be led outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times toward the front of the meeting tent. Then the heifer shall be burned in his sight, with its hide and flesh, its blood and offal. And the priest shall take some cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet yarn, and throw them into the fire in which the heifer is being burned. The priest shall then wash his garments and bathe his body in water. He remains unclean until the evening, and only after may he return to the camp. Likewise, he who burned the heifer shall wash his garments, bathe his body in water, and be unclean until evening. Finally, a man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and deposit them in a clean place outside the camp. There they are to be kept for preparing lustral water for the Israelite community. The heifer is a sin offering. He who has gathered up the ashes of the heifer shall also wash his garments and be unclean until evening. This is a perpetual ordinance both for the Israelites and for the aliens residing among them. The use of ashes. Whoever touches the dead body of any human being shall be unclean. For 7 days he shall purify himself with the water on the 3rd and the 7th day. Then he will clean again. But if he fails to purify himself on the 3rd and on the 7th day, he will not become clean. Everyone who fails to purify himself after touching the body of any deceased person defiles the dwelling of the Lord and shall be cut off from Israel. Since the lustral water has not been splashed over him, he remains unclean. His uncleanliness still clings to him. This is the law. When a man dies in a tent, everyone who enters the tent, as well as everyone already in it, shall be unclean for 7 days. Likewise, every vessel that is open or with its lid unfastened shall be unclean. Moreover, everyone who is in the open country touches a dead person, whether he was slain by the sword or died naturally, or who touches a human bone or a grave shall be unclean for 7 days. For anyone who is thus unclean, ashes from the sin offering shall be put in a vessel, and spring water shall be poured on them. Then a man who is clean shall take some hyssop, dip it in this water, and sprinkle it on the tent and on all the vessels and persons that were in it, or on him who touched a bone, a slain person, or other dead body, or a grave. The clean man shall sprinkle the unclean on the 3rd and on the 7th day. Thus purified on the 7th day, he shall wash his garments and bathe his body in water, and in the evening he will be clean again. Any unclean man who fails to have himself purified shall be cut off from the community, because he defiles the sanctuary of the Lord. As long as the lustral water has not been splashed over him, he remains unclean. This shall be a perpetual ordinance for you. One who sprinkles the lustral water shall wash his garments, and anyone who comes in contact with this water shall be unclean until evening. Moreover, whatever the unclean person touches becomes unclean itself, and anyone who touches it becomes unclean until evening. Chapter 20 of Numbers. Death of Miriam. The whole Israelite community arrived in the desert of Zin in the 1st month, and the people settled at Kadesh. It was here that Miriam died, here that she was buried. Water famine at Kadesh. As the community had no water, they held a council against Moses and Aaron. The people contended with Moses, exclaiming, would that we too had perished with our kinsmen in the Lord's presence. Why have you brought the Lord's community into this desert, where we and our livestock are dying? Why did you lead us out of Egypt only to bring us to this wretched place, which has neither grain, nor figs, nor vines, nor pomegranates? Here there is not even water to drink. But Moses and Aaron went away from the assembly to the entrance of the meeting tent, where they fell prostrate. Sin of Moses and Aaron. Then the glory of the Lord appeared to them. And the Lord said to Moses, take the staff and assemble the community, you and your brother Aaron, and in their presence order the rock to yield its waters. From the rock you shall bring forth water for the community and their livestock to drink. So Moses took the staff from its place before the Lord as he was ordered. He and Aaron assembled the community in front of the rock, where he said to them, listen to me, you rebels. Are we to bring water from you out of this rock? Then, raising his hand, Moses struck the rock twice with his staff. The water gushed out in abundance for the community and their livestock to drink. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you were not faithful to me in showing forth my sanctity before the Israelites, you shall not lead this community into the land I will give them. These are the waters of Meribah, where the Israelites contended against the Lord, and where he revealed his sanctuary among them. Edom's refusal. From Kadesh, Moses sent men to the king of Edom with the message, your brother Israel has this to say. You know of all the hardships that have befallen us, how our fathers went down to Egypt, where we stayed a long time, how the Egyptians maltreated us and our fathers, and how when we cried to the Lord, maltreated us and our fathers, and how we cried to the Lord, he heard our cry and sent an angel who led us out of Egypt. Now here we are at the town of Kadesh, in the edge of your territory. Kindly let us pass through your country. Now here we
we are at the town of Kadesh, at the entrance of your territory, kindly let us pass through your country. We will not cross any fields or vineyards, nor drink any well water, but we will go straight along the royal road, without turning to the right or to the left, until we have passed through your territory. But Edom answered him, You shall not pass through here. If you do, I will advance against you with the sword. The Israelites insisted, We want only to go up along the highway. If we or our livestock drink any of your water, we will pay for it. Surely there is no harm in merely letting us march through. But Edom still said, No, you shall not pass through, and advance against them with a large and heavily armed force. Therefore, since Edom refused to let them pass through their territory, Israel detoured around them. Death of Aaron. Setting out from Kadesh, the whole Israelite community came to Mount Hor. There at Mount Hor, on the border of the land of Edom, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Aaron is about to be taken to his people. He shall not enter the land I am giving to the Israelites, because you both rebelled against my commandment at the waters of Meribah. Take Aaron and his son Eleazar, and bring them up on Mount Hor. Then strip Aaron of his garments and put them on his son Eleazar, for there Aaron shall be taken in death. Moses did as the Lord commanded. When they had climbed Mount Hor in view of the whole community, Moses stripped Aaron of his garments and put them on his son Eleazar. Then Aaron died there on top of the mountain. When Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain, all the community understood that Aaron had passed away, and for 30 days and the whole house of Israel mourned him. Victory over Arad, chapter 21 of Numbers. When the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in Negeb, heard that the Israelites were coming along the way of Etharim, he engaged them in battle and took some of them captive. Israel then made this vow to the Lord, If you deliver this people into my hand, I will doom their cities. Later, when the Lord heeded Israel's prayer and delivered up the Canaanites, they doomed them and their cities. Hence, that place was named Hormah. The bronze serpent. From Mount Hor, they set out on the Red Sea road to bypass the land of Edom. But with their patience, worn by the journey, the people complained against God and Moses. Why have you brought us up from Egypt to die in this desert, where there is no food or water? We are disgusted with this wretched food. In punishment, the Lord sent among the people serpents, which bit the people so that many of them died. Then the people came to Mount Moses and said, We have sinned in complaining against the Lord and you. Pray the Lord to take the serpents from us. So Moses prayed for the people, and the Lord said to Moses, Make a seraph and mount it on a pole, and if anyone who has been bitten looks at it, he will recover. Moses accordingly made a bronze serpent and mounted it on a pole, and whenever anyone who had been bitten by a serpent looked at the bronze serpent, he recovered. Journey around Moab. The Israelites moved on and encamped in Oboth. The Israelites moved on and encamped in Oboth. Setting out from Oboth, they encamped in Ai Abarim, in the desert, fronting Moab, encamped in the Wadi Zered. Setting out from there, they encamped on the other side of the Arnon, in the desert that extends from the territory of the Amorites. For the Arnon forms Moab's boundary with the Amorites. Hence it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord, Wahab in Suphah, in the Wadis, Arnon, and the Wadi gorges that reach back toward the site of Ar and slant to the border of Moab. From there they went to Beer, where there was a well of which the Lord said to Moses, "Bring the people together, and I will give them water." Then it was that Israel sang this song: "Spring up, O well, so sing to it, the well that princes sank, that the nobles of the people dug with their scepters and their staffs." From Beer they went to Matana. From Matana to Nahaliel. From Nahaliel to Bamoth. From Bamoth to the cleft in the plateau of Moab at the headland of Pisgah that overlooks Jeshmon. Victory over Sihon. Now Israel sent men to Sihon, king of the Amorites, with the message, "Let us pass through your country. We will not turn aside into any field or vineyard, nor will we drink any well water, but we will go straight along the royal road until we have passed through your territory." Sihon, however, would not let Israel pass through his territory, but mustered all his forces and advanced into the desert against Israel. When he reached Jahaz, he engaged Israel in battle, but Israel defeated him at the point of the sword and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, as far as the country of the Ammonites, whose boundary was at Jazer. Israel seized all the towns here and settled in these towns of the Amorites in Heshbon and all its dependencies. Now Heshbon was the capital of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab and had seized all his land from Jazer to the Arnon. That is why the poets say, "Come to Heshbon, let it be rebuilt. Let Sihon's capital be firmly constructed. For fire went forth from Heshbon, and a blaze from the city of Sihon consumed the cities of Moab and swallowed up the high places of Arnon. Woe to you, O Moab! You are ruined, O people of Chemosh. He let his sons become fugitives and his daughters be taken captive by the Amorite king Sihon. Their plowland is ruined from Heshbon to Dibon. Ar is laid waste. Fires blaze as far as Medeba." When Israel had settled in the land of the Amorites, Moses sent spies to Jazer. Israel then captured it with its dependencies and disposed the Amorites who were there. Victory over Og. Then they turned and went up along the road to Bashan. But Og, king of Bashan, advanced against them and all his people to give battle at Idri. The Lord, however, said to Moses, Do not be afraid of him, for into your hand I will deliver him with all his people and his land. Do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. So they struck down with his sons and all his people until not a survivor was left to him, and they took possession of his land. Chapter 22. The Israelites moved on and encamped in the plains of Moab, on the other side of the Jericho stretch of the Jordan. 2. On the plains of Moab. Chapter 22. On the plains of Moab. Balaam summoned now Balak, son of Zippor, saw all that the Israelites did to the Amorites. Indeed, Moab feared the Israelites greatly because of their numbers, and detested them. So Moab said to the elders of Midian, Soon this horde will devour all the country around us,
as an ox devours the grass of the field. And Balak, Zippor's son, who was king of Moab at the time, sent messengers to Balaam, son of Beor, and Pethor on the Euphrates, in the land of the Amoites, summoning him with these words: "A people has come here from Egypt, who now cover the face of the earth, and are settling down opposite us. Please come and curse this people for us. They are stronger than we are. We may then be able to defeat them and drive them out of the country. For I know that whoever you bless is blessed, and whoever you curse is cursed." Then the elders of the Moab and of Midian left with the divination fee in hand and went to Balaam. When they had given him Balak's message, he sent to them in reply, "Stay here overnight, and I will give you whatever answer the Lord gives me." So the princes of Moab lodged with Balaam. Then God came to Balaam and said, "Who are these men visiting you?" Balaam answered God, "Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent me the message. This people that came here from Egypt now cover the face of the earth. Please come and lay a curse on them for us. We may then be able to give them battle and drive them out." But God said to Balaam, "Do not go with them, and do not curse this people, for they are blessed." The next morning Balaam arose and told the princes of Balak, "Go back to your own country, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you." So the princes of Moab went back to Balak with the report, "Balaam refused to come with us." Second appeal to Balaam. Balak again sent princes who were more numerous and more distinguished than the others. On coming to Balaam, they told him, "This is what Balak, son of Zippor, has to say. Please do not refuse to come to me. I will reward you very handsomely and will do anything you ask of me. Please come and lay a curse on this people for me." But Balaam replied to Balak's officials, "Even if Balak gave me his house full of silver and gold, I could not do anything small or great contrary to the command of the Lord, my God. But you two shall stay here overnight till I learn what else the Lord may tell me." That night God came to Balaam and said to him, "If these men have come to summon you, you may go with them, yet only on the condition that you do exactly as I tell you." So next morning when Balaam arose, he saddled his ass and went off with the princes of Moab, the talking ass. But now the anger of God flared up at him for going, and the angel of the Lord stationed himself on the road to hinder him as he was riding along on his ass, accompanied by two of his servants. When the ass saw the angel of the Lord standing on the road with sword drawn, she turned off the road and went into the field, and Balaam had to beat her to bring her back on the road. Then the angel of the Lord took his stand in narrow lane between vineyards, with a stone wall on each side. When the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she shrank against the wall, and since she squeezed Balaam's leg against it, he beat her again. The angel of the Lord went ahead and stopped next in a passage so narrow that there was no room to move either to the right or to the left. When the ass saw the angel of the Lord there, she cowered under Balaam. So in anger he again beat the ass with his stick. But now the Lord opened the mouth of the ass, and she asked Balaam, "What have I done to you that you should beat me these 3 times? You have acted so willfully against me." Said Balaam to the ass, "That if I but had a sword at hand, I would kill you here and now." But the ass said to Balaam, "Am I not your own beast? And have you not always ridden upon me until now? Have I been in the habit of treating you this way before?" "No," replied Balaam. Then the Lord removed the veil from Balaam's eyes, so that he too saw the angel of the Lord standing on the road with the sword drawn. And he fell on his knees and bowed to the ground. But the angel of the Lord said to him, "Why have you beaten your ass these 3 times? It is I who have come armed to hinder you, because this rash journey of yours is directly opposed to me." When the ass saw me, she turned away from me these 3 times. If she had not turned away from me, I would have killed you. I would have spared. Then Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned, yet I did not know that you stood against me to oppose my journey. Since it is displeased you, I will go back home. But the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, Go with the men, but you may say only what I tell you. So Balaam went on with the princes of Balak. When Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the boundary city Moab on the Arnon at the end of the Moabite territory. And he said to Balaam, I sent an urgent summons to you. Why did you not come to me? Did you think I could not reward you? Balaam answered him, Well, I have come to you after all. But what power have I to say anything? I can speak only what God puts in my mouth. Then Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kirath Huzoth. Here Balak slaughtered oxen and sheep and sent portions to Balaam and to the princes who were with him. The first oracle. The next morning Balak took Balaam on the Bamoth Baal, and from there he saw some of the clans. Chapter 23 of Numbers. Then Balaam said to Balak, Build me 7 altars and prepare 7 bullocks and 7 rams for me here. So he did as Balaam had ordered, offering a bullock and a ram on each altar. And Balak said to him, I have erected the 7 altars and have offered a bullock and a ram on each. Balaam then said to him, Stand here by your holocaust while I go over there. Perhaps the Lord will meet me, and then I will tell you whatever he lets me see. He went out on the barren height, and God met him. When he had put an utterance in Balaam's mouth, the Lord said to him, Go back to Balak and speak accordingly. So he went back to Balak, who was still standing by his holocaust together with all the princes of Moab. Then Balaam gave voice to his oracle. From Aram and Balak brought me here. Moab's king from the eastern mountains, come and lay a curse for me on Jacob. Come and denounce Israel. How can I curse whom God has not cursed? How denounce whom the Lord has not denounced? From the top of the crags I see him. From the heights I behold him. Here is a people that lives apart and does not reckon itself among the nations. Who has ever counted the dust of Jacob or numbered Israel's wind-borne particles? May I die the death of the just. May my descendants be as many as theirs. What have you done to me? Cried Balak to Balaam. It was to curse my foes that I brought you here. Instead, you have even blessed them. Balaam replied, Is it not what the Lord puts in my mouth that I must repeat with care? The second oracle. Then Balak said to him, Please come with me to another place, from which you can see only some and not all of them, and from there curse them for me. So he brought him to the lookout field on the top of Pisgah, where he built 7 altars and offered a bullock and a ram on each of them. Balaam then said to Balak, Stand here by your holocaust while I seek a meeting over there. Then the Lord met Balaam, and having put an utterance in his mouth, he said to him, Go back to Balak and speak accordingly. So he went back to Balak, who was still standing by the holocaust together with the princes of Moab. When Balak asked him, What did the Lord say? Balaam gave voice to his oracle. Be aroused, O Balak, and hearken. Give ear to my testimony, O son of Zippor. God is not man that he should speak falsely, nor human that he should change his mind. Is he one to speak and not act, to decree and not to fulfill? It is a blessing I have been given to pronounce, a blessing which I cannot restrain. Misfortune is not observed in Jacob, nor misery seen in Israel. The Lord his God is with him, and with his Lord his God is with him. With him is the triumph of his king. It is God who brought him out of Egypt, a wild bull of towering might. No, there is no sorcery against Jacob, nor omen against Israel. It shall yet be said of Jacob and of Israel, Behold what God has wrought. Here is a people that springs up like a lioness and stalks forth like a lion. It rests not till it has devoured its prey and has drunk the blood of the slain. Even though you cannot curse them, said Balak to Balaam, At least do not bless them. But Balaam answered Balak, Did I not warn you that I must do all that the Lord tells me? The third oracle. Then Balak said to Balaam, Come, let me bring you to another place. Perhaps God will approve of your cursing them for me from there. So he took Balaam to the top of Peor that overlooks Jeshimon. Balaam then said to him, Here build me 7 altars, and here prepare for me 7 bullocks and 7 rams. And Balak did as Balaam had ordered, offering a bullock and a ram on each altar. Chapter 24. Balaam, however, perceiving that the Lord was pleased to bless Israel, did not go aside as before to seek omens, but turned his gaze toward the desert. When he raised his eyes and saw Israel encamped tribe by tribe, the Spirit of God came upon him, and he gave voice to his oracle. The utterance of Balaam, son of Beor, the utterance of the man whose eye is true, the utterance of one who hears what God says, and knows what the Most High knows, of one who sees what the Almighty sees, enraptured and with eyes unveiled. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your encampments, O Israel. They are like gardens beside a stream, like the cedars planted by the Lord. His wells shall yield free-flowing waters. He shall have the sea within reach. He shall have the sea within reach. His king shall rise higher than, and his royalty shall be exalted. It is God who brought him out of Egypt. A wild bull of towering might he shall devour. The nations like grass, their bodies, their bones he shall strip bare. He lies crouching like a lion, or like a lioness, who shall arouse him. Blessed is he who blesses you. Blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you. Balak beat his palms together in a blaze of anger at Balaam, and said to him, It was to curse my foes that I summoned you here. Yet 3 times now you have even blessed them instead. Be off at once, then to your home. I promised to reward you richly, but the Lord has withheld the reward from you. Balaam replied to Balak, Did I not warn the very messengers whom you sent me? Even if Balak gave me his house full of silver and gold, I could not of my own accord do anything, good or evil, contrary to the command of the Lord. Whatever the Lord says, I must repeat. The 4th oracle. But now that I am about to go to my own people, let me first warn you what this people will do to your people in the days to come. Then Balaam gave voice to his oracle. The utterance of Balaam, son of Beor, the utterance of the man whose eye is true, the utterance of the one who hears what God says and knows what the Most High knows, of one who sees what the Almighty sees, enraptured, and with his eyes unveiled. I see him, though not now behold him, though not near. A star shall advance from Jacob, and a staff shall rise from Israel, that shall smite the brows of Moab, and the skulls of all the Shuthites, till Edom is dispossessed, and no fugitive is left in Seir. Israel shall do valiantly, and Jacob shall overcome his foes. Upon seeing Amalek, Balaam gave voice to his oracle. First of the people was Amalek, but his end is to perish forever. Upon seeing the Kenites, he gave voice to his oracle. Your abode is enduring, O smith, and your nest is set on a cliff, yet destined for burning, even as I watch your inhabitants. Upon seeing, he gave voice to his oracle. Alas, who shall survive of Ishmael, to deliver his people from the hands of the Kittim? When they have conquered Asher and conquered Eber, he too shall perish forever. Then Balaam set out on his journey home, and Balak also went his way. Chapter 25. Worship of Baal,
of Peor. While Israel was living at Shittim, the people degraded themselves by having illicit relations with the Moabite women. These then invited the people to the sacrifices of their God, and the people ate of their sacrifices and worshipped their God. When Israel thus submitted to the rites of Baal of Peor, the Lord's anger flared up against Israel, and he said to Moses, "Gather all the leaders of the people and hold a public execution of the guilty ones before the Lord, that his blazing wrath may be turned away from Israel." So Moses told the Israelite judges, "Each of you shall kill those of his men who have submitted to the rites of Baal of Peor." Zeal of Phinehas. Yet a certain Israelite came and brought in a Midianite woman to his clansmen in the view of Moses and of the whole Israelite community. While they were weeping at the entrance of the meeting tent, when Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, saw this, he left the assembly and, taking a lance in hand, followed the Israelite into his retreat, where he pierced the pair of them, the Israelite and the woman. Thus, the slaughter of the Israelite was checked, but only after 24,000 had died. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, has turned my anger from the Israelites by his zeal for my honor. Among them, that is why I did not put an end to the Israelites for the offense to my honor. Announce therefore that I hereby give him my pledge of friendship, which shall be for him and for his descendants after him, the pledge of an everlasting priesthood, because he was zealous on behalf of his God, and thus made amends to the Israelites. The Israelite slain with the Midianite woman was Zimri, son of Zalu, prince of the ancestral house of the Simonites, and the slain Midianite woman was Cosbi, daughter of Zur, who was head of a clan ancestral house in Midian. Vengeance on the Midianites. The Lord said to Moses, "Treat the Midianites as enemies and crush them, for they have been your enemies by their willy dealings with you as regards Peor and as regards their kinsman Cosbi, the daughter of the Midianite prince, who was killed at the time of the slaughter because of Peor." Chapter 26, the second census. After the slaughter, the Lord said to Moses and Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, "Take the census by ancestral houses throughout the community of the Israelites, of all those of 20 years or more who are fit for military service in Israel. So on the plains of Moab, along the Jericho stretch of the Jordan, Moses and the priest Eleazar registered those of 20 years or more, as the Lord had commanded Moses. The Israelites who came out of the land of Egypt were as follows. Of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, the Reubenites by clans were through the clan of the Hanakites through Palu, the clan of the Paluites through Hezron, the clan of Hezronites, through Carmi, the clan of Carmites. These were the clans of the Reubenites, of whom 43,730 men were registered. From Palu descended Eliab, and the descendants of Eliab were Dathan and Abram. Of the same Dathan and Abiram, councils of the community who revolted against Moses and Aaron, like Korah's band, when it rebelled against the Lord, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them as a warning. Korah too, and the band that died when the fire consumed 250 men. The descendants of Korah, however, did not die out. The Simeonites by clans were through Nemuel, the clan of Nemuelites, through Jamin, the clan of Jaminites, through Jashin, the clan of Jashinites, through Sohar, the clan of Soharites, through Shaul, the clan of Shaulites. These were the clans of the Simeonites, of whom 20,200 men were registered. The Gedites by clans were through Zephron, the clan of the Zephonites, through Zephon, the clan of Zephonites, through Haggai, the clan of Haggites, through Ozni, through Shuni, the clan of Shunites, through Ozni, the clan of Oznites, through Eri, the clan of Erites, through Arad, the clan of Aradites, through Arali, the clan of the Aralites, through the clans of the Gadites, of whom 40,500 were registered. The sons of Judah who died in the land of Canaan were and Onan. The Judites by clans were through Shelah, the clans of the Shelahites, through Perez, the clan of the Perizzites, through Zerah, the clan of Zerahites. The Perizzites were through Hezron, the clan of the Hezronites, through Hamel, the clan of Hamelites. These were the clans of Judah, of whom 26,500 men were registered. The Issacharites. By clans were through Tola, the clan of the Tolites, through Puva, the clan of Puvites, through Jashan, the clan of through Jashub, the clan of Jashubites, through Shimron, the clan of Shimronites. These were the clans of Issachar, of whom 64,300 men were registered. The Zebulunites by clans were through Sered, the clan of the Seredites, through Elon, the clan of the Elonites, through Jahileel, the clan of the Jahilielites. These were the clans of the Zebulunites, of whom 60,500 men were registered. The sons of Joseph were Manasseh and Ephraim. The Manassites by clans were through the Masher, the clan of Masherites, through Gilead, a descendant of Masher, the clan of Gileadites. The Gileadites were through Ebiezer, the clan of the Ebiezerites, through Helek, the clan of the Helekites, through Ezrael, the clan of the Israelites, through Shechem, the clan of the Shechemites, through Shemidah, the clan of the Shemidites, through Hefer, the clan of the Heferites. Zelophehad, son of Hefor, had no sons but only daughters, whose names were Mahlah, Noah, Haglah, Milcah, and Tizrah. These were the two clans of Manasseh, of whom 52,700 men were registered. The Ephraimites by clans were through Jethleah, the clan of the Jethleah of the Shuthalites, through Bishur, the clan of the Bishurites, through Tahan, the clan of Tahanites, through Shethelahites, were through Iran, the clan of the Iranites. These were the clans of the Ithromites, for whom 32,500 men were registered. These were the descendants of Joseph by clans. The Benjamites by clans were through Bela, the clan of the Belites, through Eshbel, the clan of the Eshbelites, through Echamiram, the clan of the Echamirites, through Shepham, the clan of the Shephamites, through Hufam, the clan of the Hufamites. The descendants of Bela were Arad and Naaman. Through Arad, the clan of the Aradites, through Naaman, the clan of the Naamites. These were the Benjaminites by clans, of whom 45,600 men were registered. The Danites by clans were through Sheshum, the clan of the Sheshumites. These were the clans of Dan, of whom 64,400 men were registered. The Asherites by clans were through Imnah, the clan of the Imnites, through Ishvi, the clan of the Ishvites, through Bera, Behariah, Bera, the clan of the Berites, through Heber, the clan of the Heberites, through Melchiel, the clan of the Melchielites. The name of the Asher's daughter was Sarah. These were the clans of Asher, of whom 43,400 men were registered. The Naphtalites by clans were through Jesiel, the clan of the Jeselites, through Guni, the clan of the Gunites, through Jezur, the clan of the Jezurites, through Shillem, the clan of the Shillemites. These were the clans of Naphtali, of whom 45,400 men were registered. These 601,733 and 30 were the Israelites who registered allotment of the land. The Lord said to Moses, among these groups, the land shall be divided as their heritage, in keeping with the number of individuals in each group. To a large group you shall assign a large heritage. To a small group you shall assign a large heritage. To a small group you shall to a small group a small heritage. Each group receiving its heritage in proportion to the number of men registered in it. But the land shall be divided by lot, as the heritage of the various ancestral tribes. As the lot falls, shall each group, large or small, be assigned its heritage. Census of the Levites. The Levites registered by clans were through Gershon, the clans of the Gershonites, through Kohath, the clan of the Kohathites, through Merari, the clans of the Merarites. These also were clans of Levi, the clan of the Libnites, the clan of the Hebronites, the clan of the Mehlites, the clan of the Mushites, the clan of the Korites. Among the descendants of Kohath was Amram, whose wife was named Jochebed. She also was of the tribe of Levi, born to the tribe in Egypt. To Amram she bore Aaron and Moses and their sister Miriam. To Aaron were born Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar. But Nadab and Abihu died when they were offered profane fire before the Lord. The total number of male Levites 1 month or more of age who were registered was 23,000. They were not registered with the other Israelites. However, for no heritage was given them among the Israelites. These men were the men registered by Moses and the priest Eleazar in the census of the Israelites taken on the plains of Moab, along the Jericho stretch of the Jordan. Among them there was not a man of those who had been registered by Moses. And the priest Aaron in the census of the Israelites taken in the desert of Sinai, for the Lord had told them that they would surely die in the desert, and not one of them was left except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. Chapter 27 of Numbers. Zelophehad's daughters. Zelophehad, son of Hepher, son of Gilead, son of Mashir, son of Manasseh, son of Joseph, had daughters named Mahlah, Noah, Haglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They came forward, and standing in the presence of Moses, the priest Eleazar, the princes, and the whole community at the entrance of the meeting tent, said, "Our father died in the desert. Although he did not join those who banded together against the Lord in Korah's band, he died for his own sin without leaving any sons. But why should our father's name be withdrawn from the clan merely because he had no son? Let us therefore have property among our father's kinsmen." Laws concerning heiresses. When Moses laid their case before the Lord said to him, "The plea of Zelophehad's daughters is just. You shall give them hereditary property among their father's kinsmen, letting their father's heritage pass on to them. Therefore tell the Israelites, if a man dies without leaving a son, you shall let his heritage pass on to his daughter. If he has no daughter, you shall give his heritage to his brothers. If he has no brothers, you shall give his heritage to his father's brothers. If his father had no brothers, you shall give his heritage to his nearest relative in his clan, who shall then take possession of it. This is the legal norm for the Israelites, as the Lord commanded Moses." Joshua to succeed Moses. The Lord said to Moses, Go up here into the Abarim mountains, and view the land that I am giving to the Israelites. When you have viewed it, you shall be taken to your people, as was your brother Aaron, because it is as your brother Aaron, because in their rebellion of the community in the desert of Zin, you both rebelled against my order to manifest my sanctity to them by means of the water. This is the water of Meribah of Kadesh in the desert of Zin. Then Moses said to the Lord, May the Lord, the God of spirits of all mankind, set over the community a man who shall act as their leader in all things, to guide them in all their actions, that the Lord's community may not be like sheep without a shepherd. And the Lord replied to Moses, Take Joshua son of Nun, a man of spirit, and lay your hand upon him. Have him stand in the presence of the priest Eleazar and of the whole community, and commission him before their eyes. Invest with him some of your own dignity, that the whole Israelite community may obey him. He shall present himself to the priest Eleazar, to have him seek out for him the decision of the Urim in the Lord's presence, and as he directs Joshua, all the Israelites with him, the community as a whole shall perform all their actions. Moses did as the Lord had commanded him, taking Joshua and having him stand in the presence of the priest Eleazar and of the whole community. He laid his hands on him and gave him his commission as the Lord had directed through Moses. Chapter 28 of Numbers, General Sacrifices. The Lord said to Moses, Give the Israelites this commandment. At the times I have appointed you shall be careful to present to me the food offerings that are offered to me as sweet-smelling oblations. Each morning and evening you shall tell them, therefore, this is the oblation which you shall offer to the Lord. 2 unblemished yearling lambs each day as the established Holocaust offering, 1 lamb in the morning and the other during the evening twilight, each with a cereal offering of 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil of crushed olives. This is the established Holocaust that was offered at Mount Sinai as a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. And as the libation for the first lamb you shall pour out to the Lord in the sanctuary 1/4 of a hin of wine, the other lamb to be offered during the evening twilight. You shall offer with the same cereal offering and the same libation as in the morning as a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. On the Sabbath day you shall offer 2 unblemished yearling lambs with their cereal offering 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, and their libations. Each Sabbath there shall be a Sabbath holocaust and its libation at the new moon feast on the first of each month. You shall offer as a holocaust to the Lord 2 bullocks. 1 holocaust to the Lord, 2 bullocks, 1 ram, and 7 unblemished yearling lambs, with 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a cereal offering for each bullock, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as the cereal offering for their ram, and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a cereal offering for each lamb, that the holocaust may be a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. Their libation shall be 1/2 of a hin of wine for each bullock, 1/3 of a hin for the ram, and 1/4 of a hin for each lamb. This is the new moon holocaust for every new moon of the year. Moreover, 1 goat shall be sacrificed as a sin offering to the Lord. These are to be offered in addition to the established holocaust and its libation. At the Passover on the 14th day of the first month falls the 14th day of the first month falls the Passover of the Lord, and the 15th day of this month is the pilgrimage. And the 15th day of this month is the pilgrimage feast for 7 days. Unleavened bread is to be eaten. On the first of these days you shall hold a sacred assembly, and do no sort of work. As an oblation you shall offer a holocaust to the Lord, which shall consist of 2 bullocks, 1 ram, and 7 yearling lambs, that you are sure that you are sure are unblemished with their cereal offerings of fine flour mixed with oil, offering 3/10 of an ephah for each bullock, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs, and offer 1 goat as a sin offering in atonement for yourselves. These offerings you shall make in addition offerings you shall make in addition to the established morning holocaust. You shall make exactly the same offerings each day for 7 days as food offerings, in addition to the established holocaust with its libation for a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. On the 7th day you shall hold a sacred assembly and do no sort of work. At Pentecost, on the day of the first fruits, on your feast of weeks, when you present to the Lord a new cereal offering, you shall hold a sacred assembly and do no sort of work. You shall offer as a sweet-smelling holocaust to the Lord 2 bullocks, 1 ram, and 7 yearling lambs. That you are sure are unblemished with their cereal offerings of fine flour mixed with oil, offering 3/10 of an ephah for each bullock, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs. Moreover, 1 goat shall be offered as a sin offering in atonement for yourselves. You shall make these offerings together with their libations, in addition to the established holocaust with its cereal offering. Chapter 29 of Numbers, the New Year's Day. On the first day of the 7th month, you shall hold a sacred assembly and do no sort of work. It shall be a day on which you sound the trumpet. You shall offer a sweet-smelling holocaust to the Lord, 1 bullock, 1 ram, and 7 unblemished yearling lambs, with their cereal offerings of fine flour mixed with oil, offering 3/10 of an ephah for the bullock, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs. Moreover, 1 goat shall be offered as a sin offering in atonement for yourselves. These are to be offered in addition to the ordinary new moon holocaust with its cereal offering, and in addition to the established holocaust with its cereal offering, together with the libations prescribed for them, as a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. On the Day of Atonement. On the 10th day of the 7th month, you shall hold a sacred assembly and mortify yourselves and do no sort of work. You shall offer it as a sweet-smelling holocaust to the Lord. 1 bullock, 1 ram, and 7 yearling lambs. That you are sure are unblemished, with their cereal offerings of fine flour mixed with oil, offering 3/10 of an ephah for the bullock, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs. Moreover, 1 goat shall be sacrificed as a sin offering. These are to be offered in addition to the atonement sin offering and established holocaust with its cereal offering and their libations. On the Feast of Booths, on the 15th day of the 7th month, you shall hold a sacred assembly and do no sort of work then. For 7 days following, you shall celebrate the pilgrimage feast to the Lord. You shall offer as a sweet-smelling holocaust to the Lord 13 bullocks, 2 rams, and 14 yearling lambs that are unblemished, with their cereal offerings of fine flour mixed with oil, offering 3/10 of an ephah for each of the 13 bullocks, 2/10 for each of the 2 rams, and 1/10 for each of the 14 lambs. Moreover, 1 goat shall be sacrificed as a sin offering. These are to be offered in addition to the established holocaust with its cereal offering and libation. On the 2nd day you shall offer 12 bullocks, 2 rams, and 14 unblemished yearling lambs, with their cereal offerings and libations as prescribed for the bullocks, rams, and lambs in proportion to their number, as well as 1 goat for a sin offering besides the established holocaust with its cereal offerings and libation. With its cereal offering and libation. On the 3rd day you shall offer 11 bullocks, 2 rams, and 14
unblemished yearling lambs with their cereal offerings and libations as prescribed for the bullocks, rams, and lambs in proportion to their number, as well as 1 goat for a sin offering. Beside the established holocaust with its cereal offering and libation, on the 14th day you shall offer 10 bullocks, 2 rams, and 14 unblemished yearling lambs with their cereal offerings and libations as prescribed for the bullocks, rams, and lambs in proportion to their number, as well as 1 goat for a sin offering, beside the established holocaust with its cereal offering and libation. On the 5th day you shall offer 9 bullocks, 2 rams, and 14 unblemished yearling lambs, with their cereal offerings and libations as prescribed for the bullocks, rams, and lambs in proportion to their number, as well as 1 goat for a sin offering, besides the established holocaust with its cereal offerings and libation. The 6th day you shall offer 8 bullocks, 2 rams, and 14 unblemished yearling lambs, with their cereal offerings and libations as prescribed for the bullocks, rams, and lambs in proportion to their number, as well as one goat for a sin offering, besides the established holocaust with its cereal offering and libation. On the 7th day you shall offer 7 bullocks, 2 rams, and 14 unblemished yearling lambs, with their cereal offering and libations as prescribed for the bullocks, rams, and lambs in proportion to their number, as well as 1 goat for a sin offering, beside the established holocaust with its cereal offering and libation. On the 8th day you shall hold a solemn meeting and do no sort of work. You shall offer up in holocaust as a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord 1 bullock and 1 ram and 7 unblemished yearling lambs, with their cereal offerings and libations as prescribed for the bullocks, rams, and lambs in proportion to their number, as well as 1 goat for a sin offering, beside the established holocaust with its cereal offering and libation. These are the offerings you shall make to the Lord on your festivals, besides whatever holocausts, cereal offerings, libations, and peace offerings you present as your votive or free will offering. Chapter 30. Moses then gave the Israelites these instructions, just as the Lord had ordered him: validity and annulment of vows. Moses said to the heads of the Israelite tribes, "This is what the Lord has commanded: when a man makes a vow to the Lord or binds himself under oath to a pledge of abstinence, he shall not violate his word, but must fulfill exactly the promise he has uttered. When a woman, while still a maiden in her father's house, makes a vow to the Lord or binds herself to a pledge, if her father learns of her vow or the pledge to which she bound herself and says nothing to her about it, then any vow or any pledge she has made remains valid. But if on the day he learns of it, her father expresses to her his disapproval, then any vow or any pledge she has made becomes null and void, and the Lord releases her from it, since her father has expressed to her his disapproval. If she marries while under a vow or under a rash pledge to which she bound herself, and her husband learns of it, it says nothing to her that day about it, then the vow or pledge she had made remains valid. But if on the day he learns of it, her husband expresses to her his disapproval, he thereby annuls the vow she had made, or thereby annuls the vow she had made, or the rash pledge to which she had bound herself, the Lord releases her from it. The vow of a widow or of a divorced woman, or any pledge to which such a woman binds herself, is valid. If it is in her husband's house that she makes a vow or binds herself under oath to a pledge, and her husband learns of it, yet says nothing to express to her his disapproval, then any vow or any pledge she has made remains valid. But if on the day he learns of them, her husband annuls them, then whatever she has expressly promised in her vow or in
her pledge becomes null and void. Since her husband has annulled them, the Lord releases her from them. Any vow or any pledge that she makes under oath to mortify herself, her husband can either allow to remain valid or render null and void. But if her husband, day after day, says nothing at all to her about them, he thereby allows as valid any vow or pledge, any vow or as valid any vow or any pledge she has made. He has allowed them to remain valid, because on the day he learned of them, he said nothing to her about them. If, however, he countermands them some time after he first learned of them, he is responsible for her guilt. These are the statutes which the Lord prescribed through Moses concerning the relationship between a husband and his wife, as well as between a father and his daughter while she is still a maiden in her father's house. Chapter 31. Extermination of the Midianites. The Lord said to Moses, "Avenge the Israelites on the Midianites, and then you shall be taken to your people." So Moses told the people, "Select men from the midst and arm them for war, to attack the Midianites and execute the Lord's vengeance on them. From each of the tribes of Israel you shall send a band of 1,000 men to war. From the clans of Israel, therefore, 1,000 men of each tribe were levied, so that there were 12,000 men armed for war. Moses sent them out on the campaign, 1,000 from each tribe, with Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest for the campaign, who had with him the sacred vessels and the trumpets for sounding the alarm. They waged war against the Midianites as the Lord had commanded Moses, and killed every male among them. Besides those slain in battle, they killed the 5 Midianite kings: Evi, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba. And they also executed Balaam, son of Beor, with the sword. But the Israelites kept the women of the Midianites with their little ones as captives, and all their herds and flocks and wealth as spoil. While they set on fire all the towns where they had settled and all their encampments, when they took all the booty with the people and beasts they had captured, and brought the captives together with the spoils and booty to Moses and the priest Eleazar and to the Israelite community at their camp on the plains of Moab, along the Jericho stretch of the Jordan. Treatment of the captives. When Moses and the priest Eleazar, with all the princes of the community, went outside the camp to meet them, Moses became angry with the officers of the army, the clan and company commanders, who were returning from combat. "So you have spared all the women," he exclaimed. "Why, they are the very ones who, on Balaam's advice, prompted the unfaithfulness of the Israelites toward the Lord in the Peor affair, which began the slaughter of the Lord's community. Slay, therefore, every male child and every woman who has had intercourse with a man. But you may spare and keep for yourselves all girls who had no intercourse with a man. Purification after combat. Moreover, you shall stay outside the camp for 7 days, and those of you who have slain anyone or touched anyone slain in battle shall purify yourself on the 3rd and on the 7th day. This applies both to you and to your captives. You shall also purify every article of cloth, leather, goat's hair, or wood." Eleazar the priest told the soldiers who had returned from their combat, "This is what the law, as prescribed by the Lord to Moses, ordains. Whatever can stand fire, such as gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, and lead, you shall put into the fire, that it may become clean. However, it must also be purified with luster water. But ever cannot stand fire, you shall put into the water. On the 7th day you shall wash your clothes, and then you will again be clean." After that, you may enter the camp. Division of the booty. The Lord said to Moses, "With the help of the priest Eleazar and of the heads of the ancestral houses, count up all the human captives and the beasts that have been taken, those who took an active part
in the war by going out to combat, and half to the rest of the community. You shall levy a tax for the Lord on the warriors who went out to combat. 1 out of every 500 persons, oxen, asses, and sheep, and their half of each of the spoil you shall turn over to the priest Eleazar as a contribution to the Lord. From the Israelites, half you shall take 1 out of every 50 persons, and the same from the different beasts, oxen, asses, and sheep give them to the Levites, who have charge of the Lord's dwelling. So Moses and the priest Eleazar did this, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Amount of booty. The booty that was left on the loot, the booty that was left of the loot, which the soldiers had taken, amounted 675,000 sheep, 72,000 oxen, 61,000 asses, and 32,000 girls who were still virgins. The half that fell to those who had gone out to combat was 337,500 sheep, of which 675 fell as tax to the Lord. 36,000 oxen, of which 72 fell as tax to the Lord. 30,500 asses, of which 61 fell as tax to the Lord. And 16,000 persons, of whom 32 fell as tax to the Lord. And taxes contributed to the Lord. Moses gave to the priest Eleazar, as the Lord had commanded him. The half for the other Israelites which fell to the community when Moses had taken it from the soldiers was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 oxen, 30,500 asses, and 16,000 persons. From this, the Israelites share Moses, as the Lord had ordered, took 1 out of every 50, both of persons and of beasts, and gave them to the Levites, who had charge of the Lord's dwelling. Gifts of the officers. Then the officers who had been clan and company commanders of the army came up to Moses and said to him, Your servants have counted up the soldiers under our command, and not one is missing. Before the Lord, each of us will bring as an offering to the Lord some gold article he has picked up, such as an anklet, a bracelet, a ring, an earring, or a necklace. Moses and the priest Eleazar accepted this gold from them, all of it in well-wrought articles. The gold that they gave as a contribution to the Lord amounted in all to 16,750 shekels. This was from the clan and company commanders. What the common soldiers had looted, each one kept for himself. Moses then and the priest Eleazar accepted the gold from the clan and company commanders and put it in the meeting tent as a memorial for the Israelites before the Lord. Chapter 32 of Numbers. Request of Gad and Reuben. Now, the Reubenites and Gadites had a very large number of livestock. Noticing that the land of Jezer and of Gilead was grazing country, they came to Moses and the priest Eleazar and to the princes of the community and said, The region of Atarath, Dibon, Jezer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Elilah, Sebam, Nebo, and Balmeon, which the Lord has laid low before the community of Israel, is grazing country. Now, since your servants have livestock, they continued, if we find favor with you, let this land be given to your servants as their property. Do not make us cross the Jordan. Moses' rebuke. But Moses answered the Gadites and Reubenites, Are your kinsmen then to engage in war while you remain here? Why do you wish to discourage the Israelites from crossing to the land the Lord has given them? That is just what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea.
to reconnoiter the land. They went up to the Wadi Eshkal and reconnoitered the land, then so discouraged the Israelites that they would not enter the land the Lord had given them. At that time the wrath of the Lord flared up, and he swore, because they have not followed me unreservedly, none of these men of 20 years or more who have come up from Egypt shall ever see this country I promised under oath to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, except the Kenizzite Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun, who have followed the Lord unreservedly. So in his anger with the Israelites, the Lord made them wander in the desert 40 years until the whole generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord had died out. And now here you are, a brood of sinners, rising up in your father's place to add still more to the Lord's blazing wrath against the Israelites. If you turn away from following him, he will make them stay longer. He will make them stay still longer in the desert, and so you will bring about the ruin of this whole nation. Counterproposal. But they were insistent with him. We wish only to build sheepfolds here for our flocks and towns for our families, but we ourselves will march as troops in the van of the Israelites until we have led them to their destination. Meanwhile, our families can remain here in the fortified towns from attack by the natives. We will not return to our homes until every one of the Israelites has taken possession of his heritage, and will not claim any heritage with them once we cross the Jordan. So long as we receive a heritage for ourselves on this eastern side of the Jordan. Agreement reached. Moses said to them in reply, if you keep your word to march as troops in the Lord's vanguard and to cross the Jordan in full force before the Lord until he has driven his enemies out of his way and the land is subdued before him, then you may return here quiet of every obligation to the Lord, and to Israel and his region shall be your possession before the Lord. But if you do not do this, you will sin against the Lord, and you can be sure that you will not escape the consequences of your sin. Build the towns then for your families and the folds for your flocks, and also fulfill your express promise. The Gadites and Reubenites answered Moses, your servants will do as you command, my Lord. While our wives and children, our herds, and other livestock remain in the towns of Gilead, all your servants will go across as armed troops to battle before the Lord, just as your lordship says. Moses therefore gave this order in their regard to the priest Eleazar, to Joshua son of Nun, and to the heads of the ancestral tribes of the Israelites. If all the Gadites and Reubenites cross the Jordan with you as combat troops before the Lord, you shall give them Gilead as their property when the land has been subdued before you. But if they will not go across with you as combat troops, therefore the Lord combat troops before the Lord, and shall bring their wives and children and livestock across before you into Canaan, and they shall have their property to you in the land of Canaan. To this the Gadites and Reubenites replied, we will do what the Lord has commanded us. Your servants, we ourselves, will go across into the land of the Canaanite of Canaan as troops before the Lord, but we will retain our hereditary property on this side of the Jordan. So Moses gave the Gadites and Reubenites, as well as half the tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of Amorites, the kingdom of Og, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land with its towns and the districts that surrounded them. The Gadites rebuilt the fortified towns of Dibon, Ataroth, Atroth, Shofan, Jezer, Jogbeha, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran, and they built sheepfolds. The Reubenites rebuilt Heshbon, Elilah, Kirathaim, Nebo, Beliam, Baal Meon, names to be changed, and Sibmah. These towns which they rebuilt, they called by their old names. Other conquests. The descendants of Mesher, son of Manasseh, invaded Gilead and captured it, driving out the Amorites who were there. Moses gave them Gilead to Mesher, son of Manasseh, and he settled there. Jair, a Manassehite clan, campaigned against the tent villages, captured them, and called them Havoth Jair. Nobah also campaigned against Kenath, captured it with its dependencies, and called it Nobah after his own name. Chapter 33 of Numbers, stages of the journey. The following are the stages by which the Israelites journeyed up by companies from the land of Egypt. Under the guidance of Moses and Aaron, by the Lord's command, Moses recorded the starting places of the various stages. The starting place of the successful stages were they set out from Ramses in the first month. On the 15th month, on the 15th day of the first month, on the Passover morrow, the Israelites went forth in triumph in view of all Egypt, while the Egyptians buried their firstborn, all of whom the Lord had struck down. On their gods too the Lord executed judgments. From Egypt to Sinai, setting out from Ramses, the Israelites encamped at Succoth. Setting out from Succoth, they encamped at Etham, near the edge of the desert. Setting out from Etham, they turned back to Pi-Hahiroth, which is opposite Baal-Zephon, and they camped opposite Migdal, setting out of Pi-Hahiroth. They crossed over through the sea into the desert, and after 3 days' journey in the desert of Etham, they encamped at Marah. Setting out from Marah, they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. Setting out from Elim, they camped beside the Red Sea. Setting out from the Red Sea, they camped in the desert of Sin. Setting out in the desert of Sin, they camped at Dophkah. Setting out from Dophkah, they camped at Elush. Setting out from Elush, they camped at Rifdim, where there was no water for the people to drink. Setting out from Rifdim, they camped in the desert of Sinai, from Sinai to Kadesh. Setting out from the desert to Sinai, they camped in Kibroth Hatava. Setting out from Kibroth Hatava, they camped at Hezroth. Setting out from Hezroth, they camped at Rithma. Setting out from Rithma, they camped in Ramon Perez. Setting out from Ramon Perez, they camped at Libnah. Setting out from Libnah, they camped at Rizah. Setting out from Rizah, they camped at Kehlutha. Setting out from Kehlutha, they camped at Mount Shafur. Setting out from Mount Shafur, they camped at Heradah. Setting out from Heradah, they camped at Mechelath. Setting out from Mechelath, they camped at Tahath. Setting out from Tahath, they camped at Terah. Setting out from Terah, they camped at Mithka. Setting out from Mithka, they camped at Heshmonah. Setting out from Heshmonah, from Mount Hor to Ezion Gibber. They camped at Mesurath. Setting out from Mesurath, they camped at Benejakin. Setting out from Benejakin, they camped at Mount Gidgad. Setting out from Mount Gidgad, they camped at Jotbatha. Setting out from Jotbatha, they camped at Abrana. Setting out from Abrana, they camped at Ezon Gibar. Setting out from Ezion Gibar, from Kadesh to Mount Horeb, they camped in the desert of Zin.
at Kadesh. Setting out from Kadesh, they camped at Mount Hor. On the border of the land of Edom, Aaron the priest ascended Mount Hor at the Lord's command, and there he died. In the 14th year from the departure of the Israelites from the land of Egypt, on the first day of the fifth month, Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. Now, when the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in Negeb in the land of Canaan, heard what the Israelites were coming, setting out from Mount Hor, from Ezion Geber to the plains of Moab. They camped at Zalmunna. Setting out from Zalmunna, they camped at Punon. Setting out from Punon, they camped at Oboth. Setting out from Oboth, they camped at Ai Abiram. Setting out from Ai Abiram, they camped at Dibongad. Setting out from Dibongad, they camped at Elman Diblathiam. Setting out from Alman Diblathiam, they camped in the Eberim mountains opposite Nebo. Setting out from the Arabim mountains, they encamped on the plains of Moab, along Jericho's stretch of the Jordan. Their camp along the Jordan on the plains of Moab extended from Beth Jeshmoth to Abel Shittim. Conquest and division of Canaan. The Lord spoke to Moses on the plains of Moab beside the Jericho stretch of the Jordan and said to him, "Tell the Israelites, when you go across the Jordan into the land of Canaan, drive out all the inhabitants of the land before you, destroy all their stone figures and molten images, and demolish all their high places. You shall take possession of the land and settle in it. For I have given you the land as property. I have given you the land as your property. You shall apportion the land among yourselves by lot, clan by clan, assigning a large heritage to a large group, and a small heritage to a small group. Wherever anyone's lot falls, there shall be property be within the heritage of his ancestral tribe. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land before you, those whom you allow to remain will become as barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and they will harass you in the country where you live, and I will treat you as I had intended to treat them." Chapter 34 of Numbers, the boundaries. The Lord said to Moses, "Give the Israelites this order. When you enter the land of Canaan, this is the territory that shall fall to you as your heritage, the land of Canaan with its boundaries. Your southern boundary shall be at the desert of Zin, along the border of Edom. On the desert it shall begin at the end of the Salt Sea. Turning south of the Akrabim Pass, it shall cross Zin and extend south of Kadesh Barnea to Zoradar. Thus it shall cross to Esmon, and turning from Esmon to the Wadi of Egypt, shall terminate at the sea. For your western boundary you shall have the Great Sea with its coast. This shall be your western boundary. The following shall be your boundary on the north. From the Great Sea you shall draw a line to Mount Hor, and shall continue it from Mount Hor to Lebo in the land of Hamath, with the boundary extending through Zedad. Thence the boundary shall reach to Zephron and terminate at Hazar Enan. This shall be your northern boundary. For your eastern boundary you shall draw a line from Hazar Enan to Shepham. From Shepham the boundary shall go down to Arbal, east of Ain. Descending further, shall strike the ridge on the east side of the Sea of Chinnereth. Thence the boundary shall continue along the Jordan, and terminate with the Salt Sea. This is the land that shall be yours, with the boundaries that surround it. Moses also gave this order to the Israelites. This is the land to be apportioned among you by lot, which the Lord has commanded to be given to the 9 1/2 tribes. For all the ancestral houses of the tribe of Reuben and the ancestral houses of the tribe of Gad, as well as half of the tribe of Manasseh, have already received their heritage. Received their heritage. These 2.5 tribes have received their heritage on the eastern side of the Jericho stretch of the Jordan toward the sunrise, supervisors of the allotment. The Lord said to Moses, "These are the names of the men who shall apportion the land among you: Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun, and one prince from each of the tribes whom you shall designate for this task. These shall be as follows: from the tribe of Judah, Caleb son of Jephneh; from the tribe of Simeon, Samuel son of Ammihud; from the tribe of Benjamin, Elidad son of Chislon; from the tribe of Dan, Buki son of Jugli; from the tribe of Manasseh, Haniel son of Ephod; and from the tribe of Ephraim, Kemuel son of Shiftan, for the descendants of Joseph. From the tribe of Zebulun, Elizaphan son of Parnak; from the tribe of Issachar, Paltiel son of Azan; from the tribe of Asher, Ahihud son of Shelomi; from the tribe of Naphtali, Pedahel son of Ammihud. These are they whom the Lord commanded to assign the Israelites their heritage in the land of Canaan. Chapter 35 of Numbers, cities for the Levites. Cities for the Levites. The Lord gave these instructions to Moses. To the plains of Moab, beside the Jericho stretch of the Jordan, tell the Israelites that out of their hereditary property they shall give the Levites cities for homes, as well as the pasture lands around the cities. The cities shall serve them to dwell in, and the pasture lands shall serve their herds and flocks and other animals. The pasture land shall extend 1,000 cubits from the city walls in each direction. Thus you shall measure in each direction. Thus you shall measure out 2,000 cubits outside the city, along each side, east, south, west, and north. With the city lying in the center, this shall serve them as the pasture lands of their cities. Now, these are the cities you shall give to the Levites, the 6 cities of asylum, which you must establish as a place where the homicide can take refuge, and in addition, 42 other cities. A total of 48 cities with their pasture lands to be assigned. The Levites, in assigning the cities from the property of the Israelites, take more from a larger group and fewer from a smaller one, so that each group will cede cities to the Levites in proportion to its own heritage, cities of asylum. The Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites, when you go across the Jordan into the land of Canaan, select for yourselves cities to serve as cities of asylum, where a homicide who has killed someone unintentionally may take refuge. These cities shall serve you as places of asylum from the avenger of blood, so that a homicide shall not be put to death unless he is first tried before the community. 6 cities of asylum shall you assign, 3 beyond the Jordan, and 3 in the land of Canaan. These 6 cities of asylum shall serve not only the Israelites, but all the resident or transient aliens among them, so that anyone who has killed another unintentionally may take refuge there. Murder and manslaughter. If a man strikes another with an iron instrument and causes his death, he is a murderer, and shall be put to death. If a man strikes another with a death-dealing stone in his hand and causes his death, he is a murderer, and shall be put to death. If a man strikes another with a death-dealing club and in his hand and causes his death, he is a murderer, and shall be put to death. The avenger of blood may execute the murderer, putting him to death on sight. If a man pushes another out of hatred or after lying in wait for him, throws something at him and causes his death, or if he strikes another out of enmity and causes his death, he shall be put to death as a murderer. The avenger of blood
may execute the murder on sight. However, if a man pushes another accidentally, and not out of enmity, or if without lying in wait for him he throws some object at him, or without seeing him throws a death-dealing stone which strikes him and causes his death, although he was not his enemy nor seeking to harm him, then the community, deciding the case between the slayer and the avenger of blood in accordance with these norms, shall free the homicide from the avenger of blood and shall remand him to the city of asylum where he took refuge, and he shall stay there until the death of the high priest, who has been anointed with sacred oil. If the homicide of his own accord leaves the bounds of the city of asylum where he has taken refuge, and the avenger of blood finds him beyond these bounds and kills him, the avenger incurs no blood guilt. The homicide was bound to stay in his city of asylum until the death of the high priest. Only after the death of the high priest may the homicide return to his own district. These shall be norms for you and all your descendants wherever you live for rendering judgment. Witnesses. Whenever someone kills another, the evidence of witnesses is required for the execution of the murder. The evidence of a single witness is not sufficient for putting a person to death. No indemnity. You shall not accept indemnity in place of the life of a murderer, who deserves the death penalty. He must be put to death. Nor shall you accept indemnity to allow a refuge to leave his city of asylum, and again dwell elsewhere in the land. Before the death of the high priest, you shall not desecrate the land where you live. Since bloodshed desecrates the land can have no atonement for the blood shed on it except through the blood of him who shed it. Do not defile the land in which you live and in the midst of which I dwell, for I am the Lord who dwells in the midst of the Israelites. Chapter 36 of Numbers. The property of heiresses. The heads of the ancestral houses in the clan of descendants of Gilead, son of Masher, son of Manasseh, of one of the Josephite clans, came up and laid this plea before Moses and the priest Eleazar, and before the princes the other Israelites. They said, "The Lord commanded you, my Lord, to apportion the land by lot among the Israelites, and you, my Lord, were also commanded by the Lord to give the heritage of our kinsman Zelophehad to his daughters. But if they marry into one of the other Israelite tribes, their heritage will be withdrawn from our ancestral heritage and will be added to that of the tribe into which they marry. Thus the heritage that fell to us by lot will be diminished. When the Israelites celebrate the Jubilee year, the heritage of these women will be permanently added to that of the tribe into which they marry and will be withdrawn from that of our ancestral tribe. So Moses gave this regulation to the Israelites according to the instructions of the Lord. The tribe of the Josephites the tribe of the Josephites are right in what they say. This is what the Lord commands with regard to the daughters of Zelophehad. They may marry anyone they please, provided they marry into a clan of their ancestral tribe, so that no heritage of the Israelites will pass from one tribe to another. But all the Israelites will retain their own ancestral heritage. Therefore, every daughter who inherits property in any of the Israelite tribes shall marry someone belonging to a clan of her own ancestral tribe, in order that all the Israelites may remain in possession of their own ancestral heritage. Thus, no heritage can pass from one tribe to another, but all the Israelite tribes will retain their own ancestral heritage. The daughters of Zelophehad had obeyed the command which the Lord had given to Moses. Mahlah, Tirzah, Haglah, Milcah, and Noah, Zelophehad's daughters,
married relatives of their father's side within the clans of the descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph. Hence, their heritage remained in the tribe of their father's clan. Conclusion. These are the commandments and decisions which the Lord prescribed for the Israelites through Moses on the plains of Moab, beside the Jericho stretch of the Jordan. Okay, the book of Deuteronomy we are on. Okay, historical review and exhortation. Chapter 1, Introduction. These are the words which Moses spoke to all Israel beyond the Jordan, in the desert, in the Arabah, opposite Suf, between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazroth, and Dizahab. It is a journey of 11 days from Horeb to Kadesh. It's a journey of 11 days from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea, by way of the highlands of Seir. In the 40th year of the first day of the 11th month, Moses spoke to the Israelites all the commands that the Lord had given him in their regard, after he had defeated Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth and in Edrei. Moses began to explain the law in the land of Moab beyond the Jordan as follows. Departure from Horeb. The Lord our God said to us at Horeb, "You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Leave here to go to the hill country of the Amorites and to all the surrounding regions, the land of the Canaanites, in the Arabah, the mountains, the foothills, the Negeb, and the seacoast, in the seacoast to Lebanon, and as far as the great river, the Euphrates. I have given that land over to you. Go now and occupy the land I swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I would give to them and to their descendants." Appointment of elders. At the time I said to you, "Alone I am unable to carry you, the Lord your God has so multiplied you that you are now as numerous as the stars in the sky." May the Lord, the God of your fathers, increase you at 1,000 times over, and bless you as he promised. But how can I alone bear the crushing burden that you are along with your bickering? Choose wise, intelligent, and experienced men from each of your tribes, that I may appoint them as your leaders. You answered me, "We agree to do as you have proposed." So I took outstanding men of your tribes, wise and experienced, and made them your leaders as officials over thousands, over hundreds, over 50s, and over 10s, and other tribal officers. I charged your judges at that time. Listen to complaints among your kinsmen and administer true justice to both parties, even if one of them is an alien. In rendering judgment, do not consider who a person is. Give ear to the lowly and to the great alike, fearing no man, for judgment is God's. Refer to me any case that is too hard for you, and I will hear it. Thereupon I gave you all the commands you were to fulfill. The 12 scouts. Then, in obedience to the command of the Lord our God, we set out from Horeb and journeyed through the whole desert, vast, the fearful, as you have seen, in the direction of the hill country of the Amorites. We had reached Kadesh Barnea when I said to you, "You have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is giving us. The Lord your God has given this land over to you. Go up and occupy it as the Lord. Go up and occupy it as the Lord the God of your fathers commands you. Do not fear or lose heart. Then all of you come up to me and said, "Let us send men ahead to reconnoiter the land for us and report to us on the road we must follow and the cities we must take." Agreeing with the proposal, I chose 12 men from your number, one from each tribe. They set out into the hill country as far as the Wadi Ishkal and explored it. Then, taking along some of the fruit of the land, they brought it down to us and reported, "The land which the Lord our God gives us is good." Threats of revolt. But you refused to go up, and after defying the command of the Lord your God, you set to murmuring in your tents. Out of hatred for us, the Lord has brought us up out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites and destroy us. What shall we meet with him? What shall we meet with up there? Our kinsmen have made us faint-hearted by reporting that the people are stronger and taller than we, and their cities are large and fortified to the sky. Besides, they saw the Anakim there. But I said to you, have you no dread or fear of them? The Lord your God, who goes before you, will himself fight for you, just as he took your part before your very eyes in Egypt, as well as in the desert, where you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a man carries his child, all along your journey until you arrived at this place. Despite this, you would not trust the Lord your God, who journeys before you to find you a resting place, by day in the cloud and by night in the fire, to show the way you must go. When the Lord heard your words, he was angry, and he swore, "Not one man of this evil generation shall look upon the good land I swore to give to your fathers, except Caleb son of Jephunneh. He shall see it, for to him and to his sons I will give the land he trod upon, because he has followed the Lord unreservedly. The Lord was angered against me also on your account, and said, Not even you shall enter there, but your aide Joshua son of Nun shall enter. Encourage him, for he is to give Israel its heritage. Your little ones who you said would become booty, and your children who as yet do not know good from bad, they shall enter. To them I will give it, and they shall occupy it. But as for yourselves, turn about and proceed into the desert on the Red Sea road." Unsuccessful invasion. In reply, you said to me, "We have sinned against the Lord. We'll go up ourselves and fight just as the Lord our God commanded just us. And each of you girded on his weapons, making light on going up into the hill country." But the Lord said to me, "Warn them, do not go up and fight. Lest you be beaten down before your enemies, for I will not be in your midst. I gave you this warning, but you would not listen. In defiance of the Lord's command, you arrogantly marched off into the hill country. Then the Amorites living there came out against you, and like bees chased you, cutting you down in Seir as far as Hormah. On your return, you wept before the Lord, but he did not listen to your cry or give ear to you. That is why you had to stay as long as you did at Kadesh. Chapter 2 of Deuteronomy, northward along Edom. When we did turn and proceed into the desert on the Red Sea road, as the Lord had commanded me, we circled around the highlands of Seir for a long time. Finally, the Lord said to me, "You have wandered round these highlands long enough. Turn and go north. Give this order to the people. You are now about to pass through the territory of your kinsmen, the descendants of Yeshua, of Esau, who live in Seir, though they are in conflict with them.
though they are in conflict with them, for I will not give you so much as a foot of their land. Since I have already given Yeshua possession of the high lands of Seir, you shall purchase from them with silver the food you eat and the well water you drink. Oh. The well water you drink. The Lord your God has blessed you in all your undertakings and has been concerned about your journey through this vast desert. It is now 40 years that he has been with you, and you have never been in want. Along Moab. Oh, let me get a drink, and then we'll begin. Ooh, 2 hours and 35 minutes. First drink break. Oh, I needed that. Oh. Okay. Along Moab. Here we go. Then we left behind us the Arabah route. The Arabah route. Elath, Ezion, Gibber, and Seir were our kinsmen and descendants of Yeshua, of Esau, live, and we met on toward the Yeshua live. We went on toward the desert of Moab, and the Lord said to me, do not show hostility to the Moabites, or engage them in battle, for I will not give you possession of any of their land, since I have given Ar to the descendants of Lot as their own. Formerly, the Emim lived there, a people strong and numerous and tall like the Anakim. Like them, they tall like the Anakim. Like them, they were considered Rephaim. It was the Moabites who called them Emim. In Seir, however, the former inhabitants were the Horites, the descendants of Esau, disposed them, clearing them out of the way and taking their place, just as the Israelites have done in the land of the heritage which the Lord has given them. Get ready then to cross the Wadi Zered. So we crossed it. 38 years had elapsed between our departure from Kadesh Barnea and that crossing in from Kadesh Kania, and that crossing in the meantime, the whole generation of soldiers had perished from the camp, as the Lord had sworn they should, for it was the Lord's hand that was against them, till he wiped them out of the camp completely. Along Ammon, when at length death had put an end to all the soldiers among the people, the Lord said to me, you are now about to leave Ar and the territory of Moab behind. As you come opposite the Amorites, do not show hostility or come in conflict with them, for I will not give you possession of any land of the Ammonites, since I have given it to the descendants of Lot as their own. This also was considered a country of Rephaim, from its former inhabitants, whom the Ammonites called Zemzumim, a people strong and numerous and tall like the Anakim. But these two the Lord cleared out of the way of the Amorites, who ousted them and took their place. He had done the same for the descendants of Esau, who dwell in Seir, by clearing the Horites out of their way. So the descendants of Yeshua have taken their place down to the present. So also the Kephtorim, migrating from Kephtor, cleared away the Avim, who once dwelt in the villages as far as Geza, and took their place. Defeat of Sihon. Advance now across the Wadi Arnon. I now deliver into your hands Sihon, the Amorite king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin the occupation, engage him in battle. This day I will begin to put a fear and dread of you into every nation under the heavens, so that
At the mention of your name, they will quake and tremble before you. So I sent messengers from the desert of Kedemoth and Sihon, king of Heshbon, with this offer of peace. Let me pass through your country by the highway. I will go along it without turning aside to the right or the left. For the food I eat, which you will supply, and for the water you give to me to drink, you shall be paid in silver. Only let me march through, as the descendants of Yeshua who dwell in Seir and the Moabites who dwell in Ar have done, until I cross the Jordan into the land which the Lord our God is about to give us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, refused to let us pass through his hand, because the Lord your God made him stubborn in mind and obstinate in heart, that he might deliver him up to you, as indeed he has now done. Then the Lord said to me, now that I have already begun to hand over to you Sihon and his land, begin the actual occupation. So Sihon and all his people advanced against us and joined us to join battle at Jahaz. But since the Lord our God had delivered him to us, we defeated him and his sons and all his people. At that time, we seized all the cities and doomed them with their men, women, and children. We left no survivor. Our only booty was the livestock and the loot of the captured cities. From Aroer, on the edge of the Wadi Arnon, and from the city of the Wadi itself, as far as Gilead, no city was too well fortified for us, to whom the Lord had delivered them up. However, in obedience to the command of the Lord our God, you did not encroach upon any of the Ammonite land, neither the region bordering on the Wadi Jabbok, nor the cities of the highlands. Defeat of Og, chapter 3 of Deuteronomy. Then we turned and proceeded toward Bashan, but Og, king of Bashan, advanced against us with all his people to give battle at Edrei. The Lord, however, said to me, do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hand with all his people and his land. Do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, and thus the Lord our God delivered into our hands Og, king of Bashan, with all his people. We defeated him so completely that we left him no survivor. At that time we captured all his cities, none of them eluding our grasp, the whole region of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan, 60 cities in all, to say nothing of the great number of unwalled towns. All the cities were fortified with high walls and gates and bars, as we had done to Sihon, king of Heshbon. So also here we doomed all the cities with their men, women, and children. But all the livestock and the loot of each city we took as booty for ourselves. And so at that time we took from the two kings of the Amorites beyond the Jordan, the territory from the Wadi Arnon to Mount Hermon, which is called Sirion by the Sidonites, and Sinir by the Amorites, comprising all the cities of the plateau, and all Gilead, and all the cities of the kingdom of Og in Bashan, including Selakah and Edrei. Og, king of Bashan, was the last remaining survivor of the Rephaim. He had a bed of iron, 9 regular cubits long and 4 wide, which is still perceived in Rabbah of the Ammonites. When the allotment of the conquered lands, when we occupied the land at that time, I gave Reuben and Gad the territory from Herar on the edge of the Wadi Arnon, halfway up into the highlands of Gilead, with the cities therein, the rest of the Gilead, and all of Bashan, the kingdom of Og, the whole Argob region I gave to the half tribe of Manasseh, and all this region of Bashan was once called a land of Rephaim. Jer, a Manassite clan, took all the region of Argob as far as the border of the Gershurites, and
of the Gershonites, and Maccathites, and called it after its own name, Bashan Havoth Jer. The name it bears today. To Mashar I gave Gilead, and to Reuben and Gad. The territory from Gilead to Wadi Arnon, including the Wadi Bed and its banks, and to the Wadi Jabak, which is the border of Ammonites, as well as the Arabah with the Jordan, and its eastern banks from Chinnereth to the salt sea of the Arabah, under the slopes of Pisgah. At the time I charged them as follows: the Lord your God has given you this land as your own, but all your troops equipped for battle must cross over in the vanguard of your brother Israelites. Only your wives and children, as well as your livestock, of which I know you have a large number, shall remain behind in the towns I have given you, until the Lord has settled your kinsmen as well as they, to possess the land which the Lord your God will give them on the other side of the Jordan. Then you may all return to the possession I have given you. It was then that I instructed Joshua your sons. Joshua, your eyes have seen all that the Lord your God has done to both these kings. So too will the Lord do to all the kingdoms which you will encounter over there. Fear them not. The Lord your God will fight with you. Refusal to Moses. And it was then that I besought the Lord, O Lord God, you have begun to show to your servant your greatness and might. For what God in heaven or on earth can perform deeds as mighty as yours? And let me cross over to see this good land beyond the Jordan, this fine hill country, and the Lebanon. But the Lord was angry with me on your account. And would not hear me. Enough. The Lord said to me, speak to me no more of this. Go up to the top of Pisgah and look out to the west and to the north and to the south and to the east. Look well, for you shall not cross this Jordan. Commission Joshua and encourage this and strengthen him, for he shall cross at the head of this people and shall put them in possession of the land you are to see. This was while we were in the ravine opposite Beth Peor. Chapter 4, Advantages of Fidelity. Now, Israel, hear the statutes and decrees which I am teaching you to observe, that you may live and may enter in the land and take possession of the land which the Lord, the God of your fathers, is giving you. In your observances of the commandments of the Lord your God, which I enjoin upon you, you shall not add to what I command you, nor subtract from it. You have seen with your own eyes that the Lord did as Baal Peor, the Lord your God destroyed from your midst everyone that followed the Baal of Peor. But you who clung to the Lord your God are all alive today. Therefore I teach you the statutes and decrees as the Lord my God has commanded me, that you may observe them in the land you are entering to occupy. Observe them carefully, for thus will you give evidence of your wisdom and intelligence to the nations who will hear of all these statutes and say, this great nation is truly a wise and intelligent people. For what great nation is there that has gods so close to it as the Lord our God is to us whenever we call upon him? Or what great nation has statutes and decrees that are as just as this whole law which I am setting before you today? Revelation at Horeb. However, take care and be earnestly on your guard not to forget the things which your own eyes have not seen, which your own eyes have seen, nor let them slip from your memory as long as you live, but teach them to your children and to your children's children. There was the day on which you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, and he said to me, Assemble the people for me. I will have them hear my words, and they may learn to fear me as long as they live in the land, and may so teach their children. You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, which blazed to the very sky with fire and was enveloped in a dense black cloud. Then the Lord spoke to you from the midst of the fire. You heard the sound of the words, but saw no form. There was only a voice. He proclaimed to you his covenant, which he commanded you to keep, 10 commandments which he wrote on 2 tablets of stone. The Lord charged me at that time to teach you the statutes and decrees which you are to observe over the land you will occupy. Danger of idolatry. You saw no form at all on the other day. On the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb from the midst of the fire. Be strictly on your guard, therefore, not to degrade yourselves by fashioning an idol. To degrade yourselves by fashioning an idol to represent any figure, whether it be the form of a man or a woman, of any animal on the earth, or of any bird that flies in the sky, of anything that crawls on the ground, or of any fish in the waters under the earth. And when you look up to the heavens and behold the sun or the moon or any star among the heavenly hosts, do not be led astray into adoring them and serving them. These the Lord your God has let fall to the lot of all other nations under the heavens. But you he has taken and led out of that iron foundry, Egypt, that you might be his very own people, as you are today. Since the Lord was angered against me on your account, and swore that I shall not cross the Jordan, nor enter the good land which he is giving you as heritage. I myself shall die in this country without crossing the Jordan, but you will cross over and take possession of the good land. Take heed, therefore, lest forgetting the covenant which the Lord your God has made with you, you fashion for yourselves against his command an idol in any form whatsoever, for the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. God's fidelity. When you have children and grandchildren and have grown old in the land, should you then degrade yourselves by fashioning an idol in any form, and by this evil done in his sight provoke the Lord your God? I call heaven and earth this day to witness against you, that you shall all quickly perish from the land which you will occupy when you cross the Jordan. You shall not live in it for any length of time, but shall be promptly wiped out. The Lord will scatter you among the nations, and there shall remain but a handful of you among the nations to which the Lord will lead you. But you shall serve gods fashioned by the hands of man out of wood and stone, gods which can neither see nor hear, neither eat nor smell, yet there too you shall seek the Lord your God, and you shall indeed find him when you search after him with your whole heart and your whole soul. In your distress, when all these things shall have come upon you, you shall finally return to the Lord your God and heed his voice. Since the Lord your God is a merciful God, he will not abandon and destroy you, nor forget the covenant which under oath he made with your fathers. Proofs of God's love. Ask now of the days of old, before your time, ever since God created man upon the earth. Ask from one end of the sky to the other, did anything so great ever happen before? Was it ever heard of? Did a people ever hear the voice of God speaking from the midst of fire as you did and live? Or did any God venture to go and take a nation for himself from the midst of another nation, by testings, by signs and wonders, by war, and with his strong hand with a strong hand and outstretched arm, and by great terrors, all of which the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes. All this you were allowed to see, that you might know the Lord is God, and there is no other. Out of the heavens he let you hear his voice. To discipline you on earth he let you see his great fire, and you heard him speaking out of the fire. For love of your fathers he chose their descendants, and personally led you out of Egypt by his great power, driving out of your way nations greater and mightier than you, so as to bring you in and to make their land your heritage, as it is today. This is why you must now know and fix in your heart that the Lord is God in the heavens above and on the earth below, and that there is no other. You must keep his statutes and commandments, which I enjoin on you today, that you and your children after you may prosper, and that you may have long life on the land which the Lord your God is giving you forever. Cities of refuge. Then Moses set apart 3 cities in the region east of the Jordan, that a homicide might take refuge therein if he unwittingly killed his neighbor to whom he had previously borne no malice, and that he might save his life by fleeing to one of these cities: Bezer in the desert in the region of the plateau for the Reubenites, Ramoth in Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan in Bashan for the Manassites. 2. God and his covenant. Introduction. This is the law which Moses set before the Israelites. These are the ordinances, statutes, and decrees which he proclaimed to them when they had come out of Egypt and were beyond the Jordan, in the ravine opposite Beth Peor, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and whom Moses and the Israelites defeated after coming out of Egypt. They occupied his land and the land of Og, king of Bashan, as well, the land of these 2 cities of the Amorites in the region east of the Jordan. From Arar, on the edge of the Wadi Arnon, on Mount Sion, that is Hermon, and all the Arabah east of the Jordan, as far as the Arabah Sea under the slopes of Pisgah. Chapter 5 of Deuteronomy. The covenant at Horeb. Moses summoned all Israel and said to them, Hear, O Israel, the statutes and decrees which I proclaim in your hearkening this day, that you may learn them and take care to observe them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us at Horeb. Covenant at Horeb. Ooh. Oh, my back. Oh, my back. All right, we're 3 hours in. We're almost 3 hours in. Good work, guys. Let's continue. Okay. The Lord our God made a covenant with us at Horeb. Not with our fathers did he make this covenant, but with us, all of who are alive here this day. The Lord spoke with you face to face on the mountain from the midst of fire. Since you were afraid of the fire and would not go up to the mountain, I stood between the Lord and you at that time to announce to you these words of the Lord, the Decalogue. I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that place of slavery. You shall not have other gods besides me. You shall not carve idols for yourselves in the shape of anything in the sky above, or on the earth below, or in the waters beneath the earth. You shall not bow down before them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, inflicting punishments for their fathers, wickedness on the children of those who hate me, down to the 3rd and 4th generations,
down to the third and fourth generation, but bestowing mercy down to the 1,000th generation on the children of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave unpunished him who takes his name in vain. Take care to keep holy the Sabbath day as the Lord your God commanded. As Lord the God commanded you. 6 days you may labor and do all your work, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. No work may be done then, whether by you or your son or daughter, or your male or female slave, or your ox or ass, or any of your beasts, or the alien who lives with you. Your male and female slave should rest as you do. For remember that you too were once slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you from there with his strong hand and outstretched arm. That is why the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. Honor your father and your mother, as the Lord your God has commanded you, and that you may have a long life and prosperity in the land which the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not kill, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear dishonest witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not desire your neighbor's house or field, nor his male or female slave, nor his ass, nor his ox or his ass, nor his ox or ass, or anything that belongs to him. Moses as mediator. These words and nothing more. The Lord spoke with a loud voice to your entire assembly. With a loud voice to your entire assembly. On the mountain from the midst of the fire and the dense cloud, he wrote them upon 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. But when you heard the voice from the midst of the darkness while the mountains was ablaze with fire, you came to me in the person of all your tribal heads and elders, and said, The Lord our God has indeed let us see his glory and his majesty. We have heard his voice from the midst of the fire, and have found out today that a man can still live after God has spoken with him. But why should we die now? Surely this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of the Lord our God any more, we shall die. For what mortal has heard, as we have, the voice of the living God speaking from the midst of fire and survived? Go closer, you, and hear all that the Lord our God will say, and then tell us what the Lord our God tells you. We will listen and obey. The Lord heard your words as you were speaking to me, and said to me, I have heard the words these people have spoken to you, which are all well said, would that they might always be of such a mind to fear me and keep all my commandments. Then they and their descendants would prosper forever. Go tell them to return to their tents. Then you wait here near me, and I will give you all the commandments. The statutes and decrees you must teach them, that they may observe them in the land which I am giving them to possess. Be careful, therefore, to do as the Lord your God has commanded you, not turning aside to the right or to the left, but following exactly the way prescribed for you by the Lord your God, that you may live and prosper and may have long life have long life in the land which you are to occupy. Chapter 6 of Deuteronomy. These then are the commandments, the statutes, and decrees which the Lord your God has ordered that you be taught to observe in the land into which you are crossing for conquest, so that you and your son and your grandson may fear the Lord your God and keep throughout the days of your lives all his statutes and commandments, which I enjoin on you, and thus have long life. Hear then, Israel, and be careful to observe them, that you may grow and prosper the more, in keeping with the promise of the Lord, the God of your fathers, to give you a land flowing with milk and honey, the great commandment. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Therefore you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your might, with all your heart and all your soul, and with all your strength. Take to heart these words which I enjoin on you today. Drill them into your children. Speak of them at home and abroad, whether you are busy at rest. Bind them at your wrist as a sign, and let them be as a pendant on your forehead. Write them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. Fidelity and prosperity. When the Lord your God brings you into the land which he swore to your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that he would give you a land with fine, large cities that you did not build, with the houses full of goods of all sorts that you did not garner, with the cisterns that you did not dig, with the vineyards and olives and olive groves that you did not plant. And when therefore you eat your fill, take care not to forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that place of slavery. The Lord your God shall you fear, him shall you serve, and by his name shall you swear. You shall not follow other gods, such as those of the surrounding nations, lest the wrath of the Lord your God flare up against you, and he destroy you from the face of the land. For the Lord your God, who is your midst, is a jealous God. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test, as you did at Massah, but keep the commandments of the Lord your God and the ordinances and statutes he has enjoined on you. Do what is right and good in the sight of the Lord, that you may, according to his word, prosper, and may enter in you may enter in and possess the land which the Lord promised on oath to your fathers, thrusting all your enemies out of your way. Instruction to children. Later on, when your son asks you what these ordinances, statutes, and decrees mean, which the Lord our God has enjoined on you, you shall say to your son, we were once slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand, and wrought before our eyes signs and wonders great and dire against Egypt and against Pharaoh and his whole house. He brought us from there to lead us into the land he promised an oath to our fathers and to give in to us. Therefore the Lord commanded us to observe all these statutes in fear of the Lord our God, that we may always have as prosperous and happy a life as we have today. And our justice before the Lord our God is to consist in carefully observing all these commandments he has enjoined on us. Chapter 7. Destruction of pagans. When the Lord your God brings you into the land which you are to enter and occupy, and dislodges great nations before you, the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivitites, and Jebusites, 7 nations more numerous and powerful than you, and when the Lord your God delivers them up to you, and you defeat them, you shall doom them, make no covenant with them, and show them no mercy. You shall not intermarry with them, neither giving your daughters to their sons, nor taking their daughters for your sons, for they would turn your sons from following me to serving other gods, and then the wrath of the Lord would flare up against you and quickly destroy you. But this is how you must deal with them. Tear down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, chop down their sacred poles, and destroy their idols by fire. For you are a people sacred to the Lord your God. He has chosen you from all nations on the face of the earth to be a people peculiarly his own. It was not because you are the largest of all the nations that the Lord set his heart on you and chose you, for you are really the smallest of all the nations. It was because the Lord loved you and because of his fidelity to the oath he had sworn to your fathers that he brought you out with his strong hand from the place of slavery and ransomed you from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Understand then that the Lord your God is God indeed, the faithful God who keeps his merciful covenant down to the 1,000th generation toward those who love him and keep his commandments, but who repays him with destruction the person who hates him. He does not dally with such a one, but makes him personally pay for it. You shall therefore carefully observe the commandments, the statutes, and the decrees which I enjoin on you today. Blessings of obedience. Reposition. Blessings of obedience. Here we go. Blessings of the obedience. Ugh. Okay. Blessings of obedience. As your reward for heeding these decrees and observing them carefully, the Lord your God will keep with you the merciful covenant which he promised an oath to your fathers. He will love and bless and multiply you. He will bless the fruit of your womb and the produce of your soil, your grain and wine, and oil, the issue of your herds, and the young of your flocks, in the land which he swore to your fathers he would give you. You will be blessed above all peoples. No man or woman among you shall be childless, nor shall your livestock be barren. The Lord will remove all sicknesses from you. He will not afflict you with any of the malignant disease that you know from Egypt, but will leave them with all your enemies. You shall consume all the nations which the Lord your God will deliver up to you. You are not to look on them with pity, lest you be ensnared into serving their gods. Perhaps you will say to yourselves, these nations are greater than we. How can we dispossess them? But do not be afraid of them. Rather, call to mind what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt. The great testings which your own eyes have seen, the signs and wonders, his strong hand and outstretched arm, with which the Lord your God brought you out, the same also will he do to all the nations of whom you are now afraid. Moreover, the Lord your God will send hornets among them, until the survivors who have hidden from you are destroyed. Therefore, do not be terrified by them. For the Lord your God, who is in your midst, he is a great and awesome God. He will dislodge these nations before you, little by little. You cannot exterminate them all at once, lest the wild beasts become too numerous for you. The Lord your God will deliver them up to you and will rout them utterly until they are annihilated. He will deliver their kings into your hand, that you may make their names perish from under the heavens. No man will be able to stand up against you, till you have put an end to them. The images of their gods you shall destroy by fire. Do not covet the silver or gold on them, nor take it for yourselves, lest you be ensnared by it. For it is an abomination to the Lord your God. You shall not bring any abominable thing into your house, lest you be doomed with it. Loathe and abhor it utterly as a thing that is doomed. Chapter 8 of Deuteronomy. God's care. Be careful to observe all the commandments I enjoin on you today, that you may live and increase and may enter and possess the land which the Lord promised on oath to your fathers. Remember how for 40 years now the Lord your God has directed all your journeying in the desert, so as to test you by affliction and find out whether or not it was your intention to keep his commandments. He therefore let you be afflicted with hunger, and then fed you with manna, a food unknown to you and your fathers, in order to show you that not by bread alone does man live, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of the Lord. The clothing did not fall from you in tatters, nor did your feet did your feet swell these 40 years, so you must realize that the Lord your God disciplines you even as a man disciplines his son. Danger of prosperity. Therefore keep the commandments of the Lord your God by walking in his ways and fearing him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good country, a land with streams of water, with springs and fountains welling up in the hills and valleys, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, of olive trees and honey, a land where you can eat bread without stint, and where you will lack nothing, a land whose stones contain iron and in whose hills you can mine copper. But when you have eaten your fill, you must bless the Lord your God for the good country he has given you. Be careful not to forget. Be careful not to forget the Lord your God by neglecting his commandments, decrees, and statutes which I enjoin on you today, lest you have eaten your fill and have built fine houses and lived in them, and have increased your herds and flocks, your silver and gold, and all your property. You then become haughty of heart and unmindful of the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that place of slavery, who guided you through the vast and terrible desert, with its seraph serpents and scorpions, its parched and waterless ground, who brought forth water for you from the flinty rock, and fed you in the desert with manna a food unknown to your fathers, that he might afflict you and test you, but also make you prosperous in the end. Otherwise you might say to yourselves, it is my own power and the strength of my own hand that has obtained for me this wealth. Remember then, it is the Lord your God who gives you the power to acquire wealth by fulfilling as he has now done the covenant which he swore to your fathers. But if you forget the Lord your God and follow other gods, serving and worshiping them, I forewarn you this day that you will perish utterly, like the nations which the Lord destroys before you. So shall you too perish for not heeding the voice of the Lord your God. Chapter 9 of Deuteronomy. Unmerited success. Hear, O Israel. Hear, O Israel. You are now about to cross the Jordan to enter in and dispossess the nations greater and stronger than yourselves, having large cities fortified into the sky, the Anakim, a people great and tall. You know of them and have heard it said of them, who can stand up against the Anakim? Understand then today that it is the Lord your God who will cross over before you as a consuming fire. He is who will reduce them to nothing and subdue them before you, so that you can drive them out and destroy them quickly, as the Lord promised you. And the Lord your God has thrust them out of your way. Do not say to yourselves, it is because of my merits that the Lord has brought me in to possess this land. For it is really because of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is driving them out before you. Nor it is because of your merits or integrity of your heart that you are going in to take possession of their land, but the Lord your God is driving these nations out before you on accident of their wickedness, and in order to keep the promise which he made on oath to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand this, therefore, is not because of your It's not because of your merits that the Lord your God is giving you this good land to possess, for you are a stiff-necked people. The golden calf. Bear in mind and do not forget how you angered the Lord your God in the desert from the day you left the land of Egypt until you arrived in this place. You have been rebellious toward the Lord. At Horeb you so provoked the Lord that he was angry, enough to destroy you. When I had gone up the mountain to receive those stone tablets of the covenant, which the Lord made with you, meanwhile I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights without eating or drinking till the Lord gave me the 2 tablets of stone inscribed by God's own finger, with a copy of all the words that the Lord spoke to you on the mountain, from the midst of the fire on the day of the assembly. Then at the end of the 40 days and 40 nights, when the Lord had given me the 2 stone tablets of the covenant, he said to me, "Go down from here now quickly, for your people whom you have brought out of Egypt have become depraved. They have already turned aside from the way I pointed out to them, and have made for themselves a molten idol. I have seen now how stiff-necked this people is. The Lord said to me, let me be, that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under the heavens. I will then make you of a nation. I will then make of you a nation mightier and greater than they. When I had come down again from the blazing fiery mountain with the 2 tablets of the covenant in both my hands, I saw how you had sinned against the Lord your God. You had already turned aside from the way which the Lord had pointed out to you by making for yourselves a molten calf. Raising the 2 tablets with both hands, I threw them from me and broke them. Before your eyes, then, as before, I lay prostrate before the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights without eating or drinking, because of all the sin you had committed in the sight of the Lord and the evil you had done to invoke him. For I dreaded the fierce anger of the Lord against you. His wrath would destroy you. Yet once again the Lord listened to me. With Aaron too, the Lord was deeply angry, and would have killed him. Lord have killed him had I not prayed for him also at that time. Then taking the calf, the sinful object you made, and fusing it with fire, I ground it down to powder as fine as dust, which I threw into the wadi that went down the mountainside, at Taberah and at Massa, and at Kibroth Hatava. Likewise you provoked the Lord to anger. And when he sent you up from Kadesh Barnea to take possession of the land he was giving you, you rebelled against this command of the Lord your God, and would not trust or obey him. Ever since I have known you, you have been rebels against the Lord. Those 40 days then and 40 nights, I lay prostrate before the Lord, because he had threatened to destroy you. This was my prayer to him. O Lord God, destroy not your people, the heritage which your majesty has ransomed and brought out of Egypt with your strong hand. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Look not upon the stubbornness of the people, nor upon the wickedness of sin, lest the people from whose land you have brought us say, the Lord was not able to bring them into the land he promised them, or out of hatred for them he brought them out to slay them in the desert. They are, after all, your people and your heritage, whom you have brought out by your great power and with your outstretched arm. Chapter 10 of Deuteronomy. At that time the Lord said to me, cut 2 tablets of stone like a former, then come up the mountain to me. Also make an ark of wood. I will write upon the tablets the commandments that were on the former tablets that you broke, and you shall place them in the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood and cut 2 tablets of stone like the former, and went up the mountain carrying the 2 tablets. Lord then wrote on them, as he had written before, the 10 commandments which he spoke to you on the mountain, from the midst of the fire on the day of the assembly, after the Lord had given them to me. I turned and came down the mountain and placed the tablets in the ark I had made. There they have remained in keeping with the commandments, keeping with the command the Lord gave me. The Israelites set out from Berath Ben Jachem for Mozerah, where Aaron died and was buried. His son Eleazar succeeded him in the priestly office. From there they set out for Gidgadah, and from Gidgadah for Judbatha, a region where there is water in the wadis. At the time the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, to be in attendance before the Lord and minister to him, and to give blessings in his name. As they have done to this day, for this reason Levi has no share in the heritage with his brothers. The Lord himself is his heritage, as the Lord your God has told him. After I had spent these other 40 days and 40 nights on the mountain, and the Lord had once again heard me and decided not to destroy you, he said to me, "Go now and set out at the head of your people, that they may enter in and occupy the land in which I swore to their fathers I would give them." The Lord's Majesty. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you but to fear the Lord your God, and follow his ways exactly, to love and serve the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul, to keep the commandments and statutes of the Lord which I enjoin on you today for your own good. Think the heavens, even the highest heavens, belong to the Lord your God, as well as the earth and everything on it. Yet in his love for your fathers, the Lord was so attached to them as he chose you. Their descendants in preference to all other peoples, as he has now done. Circumcise your hearts, therefore, and be no longer stiff-necked, for the Lord your God is a God of gods. For the Lord your God is the God of gods. The Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who has no favorites, accepts no bribes, who executes justice for the orphan and the widow, and befriends the alien, feeding and clothing him. So you too must befriend the alien, for you were once aliens yourselves in the land of Egypt. The Lord your God shall you fear, and him shall you serve. Hold fast to him and swear by his name. He is your glory, he is your God, who has done for you these great and terrible things, which your own eyes have seen. Your ancestors went down to Egypt, 70 strong, and now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars of the sky. Ooh. Okay. Chapter 11 of Deuteronomy. The wonders of the Lord. Love the Lord your God, therefore, and always heed his charge, his statutes, decrees, and commandments. It is not your children who have not known it from experience, but you yourselves who must now understand the discipline of the Lord your God, his majesty, his strong hand, and his outstretched arm, the signs, the deeds he wrought among the Egyptians, on Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and on all his land, when he did to the Egyptian army and to their horses and chariots, engulfing them in the water of the Red Sea as they pursued you, and bringing ruin upon them, even to this day, what he did for you in the desert until you arrived in this place, and what he did to the Reubenites, Dathan and Abraham, son of Eliab, when the ground opened its mouth and swallowed them up out of the midst of Israel, with their families and tents and every living thing that belonged to them, with your own
with your own eyes. You have seen all these great deeds the Lord has done. Keep all the commandments then, which I enjoin on you today, and you may be strong enough to enter in and take possession of the land into which you are crossing, and that you may have long life on the land which the Lord swore to your fathers he would give to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. The gift of rain. For the land which you are to enter and occupy is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you would sow your seed, and then water it by hand as in a vegetable garden. No, the land which you are crossing for conquest in a land of hills and valleys that drinks in rain from the heavens, a land which the Lord your God looks after. His eyes are upon it continually from beginning of the year to the end. If then you truly heed my commandments, which I enjoin on you today, loving and serving the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul, I will give the seasonal rain to your land, the early rain and the late rain, that you may have your grain, wine and oil to gather in, and I will bring forth grass in your fields for your animals. Thus you may eat your fill, but be careful lest your heart be so lured away that you serve other gods and worship them, for then the wrath of the Lord will flare up against you and will close you up in the heavens, that no rain will fall, and the soil will not yield its crops, and you will soon perish from the good land he is giving you. Okay. Reward fidelity. Therefore, take these words of mine into your heart and soul, bind them at your wrist as a sign, and let them be a pendant of your forehead. Teach them to your children, speaking to them at home and abroad, whether you are busy or at rest. And write them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates, so that as long as the heavens are above the earth, you and your children may live on in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers he would give them. For you are careful to observe all these commandments. I enjoin on you loving the Lord your God and following his ways exactly, and holding fast to him. The Lord will drive all these nations out of your way, and you will dispossess the nations greater and mightier than yourselves. Every place where you set foot shall be yours, from the desert and from Lebanon, from the Euphrates River to the western sea shall be your territory. None shall stand up against you. The Lord your God will spread the fear and dread of you through the land where you set foot, as he promised you. A blessing and a curse. We will continue that